Aishwarya, and in our class today we are going to be looking at the whole chapter Socialism in Europe and the Russian Revolution. Now, this is a part of our Jeet Ka Josh series. It is back and it is back with a bang. And of course, from this week onwards, all your Jeet Ka Josh classes are going to be started in full-fledged. So without wasting any more time, we'll get started real fast, okay? So I hope my audio, my video and my screen and what I am writing on my screen is visible to all of you. So here I can see that there's Kamna, Monalisha, Harshada, I can see Nikita, I can see Devjyoti here. Yes, ma'am, please explain in Hindi. So I will try my best to teach in Hindi, right? Because we have a mixed audience. We have some people who understand English, some who are comfortable with Hindi. And of course, at the end of the day, when you're writing your exam, you're going to be writing it in English, no? So what I would say is you slowly start getting a little comfortable with English as well. But here and there, if you're not at all understanding what I'm saying and it's becoming very tough to understand, you let me know in the chat. I will explain that part in Hindi. Yes, can we all agree upon this? Good afternoon, Devjyoti, Saurabh, Learning with Manish, Bhumika, Pichikeen. I can see Kailash. Wow, a lot of you are here already. Very quickly, please share this link with all of your friends. Tell them to join today's class because we're going to look at this whole chapter in one shot, okay? I will complete this. This is a pretty long chapter, which is why we're doing it on the weekend because we need a little more time than normally what we have on the weekdays. And sometimes on the weekdays, you might also, come back from school. So there are times when, you may not be able to focus entirely, which is why we're doing it today. And of course, I will try to wind it up in 1.5 to 2 hours, okay? So that you can take a good amount of break and then jump into your next class with Khushbu ma'am at 4 p.m. Yes? So are we ready, everybody? Are we ready? And are we excited? Namaste, namaste, yes. How's the Josh, everybody? Quick check on the Josh level and I'm going to get started. Yes, amazing, amazing. I can see that a lot of you are here. Good afternoon. Okay, all right. Now, of course, for the other chapter requests, you let me know in the comment section below. This week also, we'll be doing one more 9th grade chapter. Yes, that is awesome. So, let's get started, okay? Yes, all right. So, now, of course, everybody, before I get started, some of you know about this, right? Anthe is there. Anthe is going on. Right, the exams have started from yesterday. From 5th it has started. And if you want to give offline exams, you'll have to register 7 days before. And today is the last day for your offline exam, right? So because the last exam that's happening is around 14th, right? So you'll have to register 7 days prior, which is why we're telling you 13th. So if you want to register for Anthe, you still haven't registered. Today is your last day for offline. Online exams, of course, you can still register maybe 3 days prior, right? So I hope that you've registered. And if you have registered, then all the best for your exams. And for those of you who are done with Anthe, I know that you have this huge sense of relief like, yes, the exam was easy. Now, this is something very important for all of you, right? All of you have met Arsh Ma'am. Arsh Ma'am has started taking classes. And Arsh Ma'am, along with our Kriti Ma'am, will be doing a 90-day roadmap to score 95% in boards 2023. Now, I know you guys are not giving your board exams, but you can still attend this webinar. It is absolutely free, right? The link is there in the registration. But what this will give you an idea is that if you are an early starter, right, and you want to know, can I apply this maybe for my 9th grade? What should I keep in mind for my 10th grade next year? Then this is a webinar that you have to attend. It is happening on 13th of November at 12:30 p.m. So all of you, please register, okay? Yes, all right. I may not be able to come in this session, Darshan. Next, when I take one more session, maybe then I'll be there, okay? Yes, all right. So now, of course, we're going to get started, okay? Now, as you know, I have a smart board screen. I have a laptop as well, but I will be checking my comments on my phone also. So, how we're going to go about today's class is we will quickly discuss some of the important topics. We'll have some questions that will help us answer. And especially with this particular chapter, there are some important dates that you have to remember. Specific dates, like when, like 25th February or so and so date, right? So you'll have to remember the specifics of it, which is why if you have your textbook with you, it will be really helpful, right? And I have a quick question for everyone. How many of you, I understand that for some of you, this was already there in your midterms as well, no? How many of you had this chapter in your midterms? Yes? How many of you had it, or how many of you have not had this chapter yet, and it is only going to come maybe in the unit tests that you have later on? Not me. Yes, I have, ma'am. See, some of you have already had it in your midterms, while some of you have not had it. It will be coming, I think, up in the upcoming month when you have your unit tests, right? Sometime maybe around December you're having it, no? Yes, okay. It may come in unit test, exactly. Okay, so two possibility of chapters. One is Nazism, that's going to be upcoming, and then of course we have the social revolution, socialism and Russian revolution that we are going to have. So for those of you who've had it, who've not had it, don't worry. We will learn it together, okay? And this chapter is very simple. Let me tell you, it's a very simple chapter. It is just that there are so many things which are happening, no? Sometimes we tend to get lost with what's happening. How many of you feel that, ma'am, I've read this chapter once, but so much is there, I got bored in between, or I don't know, in between I got confused, I'm not really sure of what's really going on. How many of you have felt it? Yes, see, you're saying, ma'am, it's not that easy. Yes, I have read it. So I will recommend that for every class, especially every social science class, whether it's history, civics, geography, or your economics, read the chapter and come once. It will definitely help you, okay? Yeah, I know, it is difficult, but that's why I'm here today, to make your life super duper easy. We are going to be learning it, and you will tell me at the end of it, ma'am, I know I have to remember some dates, but now I know what happened and why the Russian Revolution happened, right? So let's quickly get started. I'll not waste more time, okay? So as you know, for today's class, what are our learning objectives, okay? Our learning objective is to understand what were the economic or socio-economic conditions, right? Or the socio-political conditions way back in the 19th century. So here we're talking post-French Revolution, yes? And then we're going to be talking about how this French Revolution led to different kinds of political strands, different kinds of political ideologies or groups, wherein we have liberals, radicals, and conservatives, fancy names, doing very simple things, right? Then, of course, this whole thing is set on the context of the Industrial Revolution, right? So how the industrial society, or how that had an impact on the people who were living there, especially in Russia, and how the workers and how, the factory owners, what did they face at that point. Then once we do this, we will move on to talking about Russia in specific, because this till here will give us an idea on what is socialism. But how this had an impact in Russia, and how, of course, earlier Russia was having a monarchy, right? And that was overthrown. And, of course, there was rising socialism in Russia. Then this led to the 1905 revolution. Now, see, a big revolution starts out with small things, right? So they all start with small events that took place, which has had a significance in history. And then, of course, after this, we are going to be looking at events of 1914. Now, 1914, is when World War was there, right? The revolution, the abdication of the Tsar. And, of course, you have the economic, political impact of February Revolution. Then you have an October Revolution. So many revolutions. But at the end of the day, how all of this contributed to the rise of the Bolsheviks' power, and how they had an impact on society. And of course, at the end, we'll be talking about Stalinism and what was the influence. Why are we learning about all these things? How this Russian Revolution in itself had a global impact, how it impacted the entire world. Okay, so this is what we are going to get started with. Now, everybody, I need you all to focus in class, okay? I need you to all pay attention in class. I need you to keep listening. Don't get distracted in between, okay? Yes, all right. So now, like I told you, this whole chapter is set on the context of Industrial Revolution. Now, can you tell me what do you understand by Industrial Revolution? Even if you don't know anything about it, just from the words, what do we understand by Industrial Revolution? Yes, everybody, in the chat, very quickly, can you tell me? What do we mean by Industrial Revolution? Protest, okay. Coming of industry, very good, very good. All right. Okay. Yes, diamond creations, let's not be that center then. No, let's all pay attention in class. Okay, ma'am, Hindi mein explain कीजिए. हाँ, मैं हिंदी में explain करूँगी. Don't worry. Yes, live चल रहा है अभी लाइव चल रहा है. Protest, okay, see, revolution, I know most often than not you think of it as, protest, but here in this case, like you said, it's the coming of industry, right? So here basically what happened is around the mid 18th century, Europe really saw the coming of industries, okay? Now what happened was that there were a lot of industries which were set up for manufacturing goods at a large scale, right? That's what, if you have a factory, you know what the factory does. It might be producing toys, it could be producing, your laptops, whatever it is, books. But if it needs to be produced at a mass scale, then we have an industry for it. Now what happens is that this industrial revolution was like a boon and bane kind of thing. Because when the industries come, or when there's a coming of industries, a lot of factories being set up, what do you think are the benefits? We know that some of the big benefits of having an industrial revolution was that there was more work, right? So more people were employed for this, and because of this we saw that a lot of rural agrarian areas where there was only agriculture that was being practiced, we saw that a lot of them moved to cities and their towns so that they could get jobs, right? And as a result, all these cities and towns that are there, they started becoming urban areas, right? So how you have, like in Bangalore, you have Bangalore urban, you have Bangalore rural. Yes, so Bangalore urban is an urbanized area where you have all your facilities that are there. Yes. So here we saw that things started to become urban or more progressive, which is what we call as urbanization. And we saw that there were a lot of factories, there were a lot of machines, right? Lot of machines running in on steam power, right? So we know that apart from this, railroads were set up, which means a lot of connectivity as well, right? So if things are connected, now what do you see? All good things, progress, progress, progress. But this kind of a rapid revolution that happened also led to the fact that workers who were there, they were, they were overexploited, the workers were not having proper conditions, they were overworked, they were not given proper places to stay. So the workers, although industrial revolution is happening or it's going on, the workers were facing a very tough time. And this is the context that you have to understand. This whole chapter is based on this context of industrial revolution, right? So this is what we mean by it. Now, of course, when the Industrial Revolution happened and, the people were there, they were thinking, okay, this is only my life. Working will be only like this. There is no possibility for change. But then if you see here, we see that a lot of them, right? We observe that post-French Revolution, it gave rise to a lot of new ideas, no? So now in the post-French Revolution, what did people feel? It gave people confidence that, okay, you know what, society structure and how the hierarchy is there in the society can be changed, right? New ideas can be developed. And of course, you know that the social structure that was there in Europe, especially with monarchy, was getting challenged. And all in all, everybody thought that, it is in our favor, right? If we change this cultural order, it's going to be helpful. But again, not everybody felt that, right? So here's where some difference in ideologies come. So now there's a change in thought that, okay, society is not working the way it should be. No, society can be changed. Some people believed that, some people did not think so. And based on this very thing, you had emergence of political strands or groups of people with ideologies. That is your radicals, liberals, and conservatives. Are we clear? Are we clear? Yes, okay. Please teach us in Hindi and English. Okay. Again, like I told all of you, right? Whatever parts you are not able to understand in Hindi, in English, I'll tell you in Hindi, simple reason you will be writing all these answers in English. No, you will not be writing it in Hindi. That is why I said in the beginning of the class, okay? Ma'am, please use English. Okay. How many of you are okay with the fact that I will teach the parts that you don't understand in Hindi? Are we okay with it? Are we okay with it? Because I know that this English thing will go on for the rest of the day if I don't address it now. That's why I'm asking you all right now before I go ahead to the main part of the chapter. Okay, crystal clear. We are clear with this. Bilingual. Okay. Alright. So, very quickly I'll tell you. Europe के mid-century time में due to the setting of industrial revolution, ज्यादा वर्कर्स भारी भारी काम कर रहे थे, ओवर एक्स्ट्रा टाइम वो वर्क कर रहे थे, और उनका प्रॉपर सैनिटेशन हाइजीनिक हाउसेस नहीं था. इसीलिए फ्रेंच रेवोल्यूशन के बाद द रेवोल्यूशन गिव कॉन्फिडेंस कि हाँ, सोसाइटी में all these things can change, the structure can change, right? नए नए आइडियाज वेलकम होंगे, right? So now what happened is, सबको ये आइडिया नहीं पसंद आया कि अभी सोसाइटी को बदलना है, right? Some people thought नहीं, ऐसे ही रहने दो, right? और मे बी हम चेंज कर सकते हैं बट थोड़ा टाइम लगेगा, right? तो उसके बेसिस पे हमें मिलेगा रेडिकल्स, लिबरल्स और कंजर्वेटिव्स, right? All right. So now let's understand liberals, radicals and conservatives. Who are they? Now this particular part that is there, right, you can get this as a differentiate question. Differentiate between the ideologies of liberals and radicals, or liberals and conservatives, or you might just be given a 2 to 3 marker to explain what the liberals believed in, right? So this is something you need to make an important note of in your textbook. Textbook में make a note कि इसके basis पे questions आ सकता है. So first and foremost, let us have a look at liberals. Who are liberals? Now liberals वो होते हैं जो liberty में believe करते हैं, right? They believe that men should be liberal enough, or they must be able to do certain things. तो उनका फर्स्ट रिक्वायरमेंट था कि हमको एक नेशन बनाना है जहां पे सारे रिलीजन्स को टॉलरेट कर सकते हैं. उस टाइम पे ब्रिटेन में वी नो दैट दे यूज्ड टू फॉलो अ सर्टेन काइंड ऑफ चर्च. ऑस्ट्रिया, स्पेन यूज्ड टू फॉलो कैथोलिक चर्च, बट दे सेड नो, वी डोंट वांट दैट. वी वांट अ नेशन दैट विल टॉलरेट ऑल रिलीजन्स. नाउ व्हाट दे आल्सो बिलीव्ड इज दैट दे लाइक, हम मोनार्की में नहीं बिलीव कर सकते हैं. दे डिड नॉट वांट अ किंग, और दे डिड नॉट वांट somebody with absolute power, right? So we're talking about a absolutist monarchy. Absolutist monarchy क्या होता है? जहां पे the ruler, the king को full ultimate power होता है. That means the power or the decision taken by the monarch is absolute. That is what we mean by absolutist monarchy, right? Now they also wanted to have an elected parliament, okay? So here as you can see, they wanted to have an elected parliament, wherein in the parliament they wanted people from the society to be there, right? So they wanted representatives from the society. Now these are all good things, right? But there were also some things that did not really make sense about what the liberals told, okay? Now apart from this, before I get to that, they also wanted to have a justice system or a judiciary, right? And they said that, you know what, we should have some laws. If I'm having a nation, which tolerates all religions, it's not ruled by monarchy, I have a parliament, then we should have a set of laws which our citizens should follow, and decisions regarding it should be made by an independent judiciary. Now what do I mean by independent? That means that nobody should influence it. The judiciary will listen to it and then take a hearing, or they will take a call by themselves, right? This will not be under anybody. That's why we mean by independent judiciary. Yes? So these are 4 things. But at the same time, they did not believe in universal adult franchise. Now can you tell me in the chat, what do we mean by universal adult franchise? Very quickly. What do we mean by this? What is universal adult franchise? In the chat. Yes, everybody. Right to vote. Very good. I will explain Stalin and Lenin. I'm coming to that. No, we are coming to that. We're doing the whole chapter today. Voting rights. Very good. Yes. Not marriage, it is voting rights, okay? So in universal adult franchise, they believed that everybody, irrespective of what they do, men, women, irrespective of whether they own property, they don't own property, every single person should have the right to vote. Yes, very good, Purna. Of a certain age, he must vote regardless of his education or his wealth, right? Yes, okay. So now, of course, they did not believe in it. They felt that only people who owned properties, right? And that too, only men should vote, okay? They didn't think that all men could vote, only men with properties would vote. And they did not support the women's right to vote. They didn't think that women must be involved in this. So this, as you know, is something that the liberals believed in. Now, how is the radicals different? Now when I say radicals, no, what does the first word that come to your mind, right? What do we mean by radicals? What do we mean by it? In the chapter, I mean, in general, what do we mean by it? Discrimination, okay. Alright, I'll not say discrimination, there's another word. Yes, everyone in the class, please focus. Pro-changers, okay, alright, very good. Fully democratic, okay. Opposed liberals, and their approach is also a little extreme, no? They're neither on this and they're on two extremes, right? Yeah, so normally when we say it is a radical change, that means it's quite a drastic change, right? Yes, they wanted a quick change in this case. Now, unlike the liberals, what they wanted is they wanted to build a nation which was having majority support. That means that the nation should be built by the majority, the parliament should be built with majority parties that are there. Now, of course, unlike the radicals, unlike the liberals, if you see, they were supportive of women's suffragette movements. Now, what are these suffragette movements? Can you tell me in the chat? What do we mean by suffragette movement? In the chat now, very quickly. I need all of you to focus in class, right? Okay, very good, very good. What do we mean by this? Suffragette, right to vote. Yes, exactly. So in this case, if you see, mainly for suffragette movements, they were movements conducted by women for their right to vote. And now, of course, unlike the liberals, it was not like they didn't believe that, men should, there were people who owned property, right? So they were not like against people who owned property or the landowners. But what they did not like is the fact that the wealth that was there was not distributed properly. There'll be like some 3-4 people here who will have lots and lots of money. And then after that, there'll be like a huge bunch of people who are not having proper money to survive, right? So there is drastic, irregularity in the distribution of wealth. And they didn't like that. And of course, they opposed certain privileges. So of course, landowners, wealthy factory owners, they all had some benefits at that point, right? So they were not very happy with the fact that they held those privileges, and the others, the workers who were there, they were not getting it, right? So those were about the radicals. Then you have the conservatives, right? Conservative, or the name suggests conservation, right? That means that they were not very okay with all the changes that the liberals and the radicals were saying. They were like, see, we understand that there is a need to change. I agree with you. We need to change our society. But you cannot change it so drastically, right? People wanted it to hold on to the past, respect tradition, and respect social hierarchy. And they wanted a very slow change, right? Yes, so this is what we mean by the conservatives. So now are we clear with the difference between radicals, liberals, and your conservatives? We are clear, no? Very simple and easy. Now here's a quick question for all of you. Which class of the society was opposed to ideas of social change in mid-19th century in Europe? Was it the radicals, the liberals, the conservatives, or the socialists? In the chat, everyone, very quickly. Okay. Yes, I will explain liberals once again. Don't worry. And past should be respected. Yes, that's very important. Class 10 SST session will be coming this week. Don't worry. Awesome. Yes. Okay. Very good. Very good. Today everybody is very slow in the chat. Sunday mood, SST. Everybody is like very relaxed today. Normally the chat will be flooding with answers. Josh looks low, so you gotta increase the Josh. Okay. Very good. Yes. Okay. So now of course this correct answer here is option C. Now for those of you who wanted me to explain liberals once again, I'm going to write it here. Now, your main points for liberals you need to remember is they wanted a nation which respected all religions, right? So, they wanted a nation which respected all religions, and they opposed. They did not want monarchy, no? They did not want the absolute monarchy, which means that if there is a monarch or there is a ruler and only he has the power to make decisions, right? For his, fellow men or for his, countrymen, then you know that that's not the kind of ruler that you want. He's not even taking into account if it's going to be the well-being for them or no. He's just taking decision. So they didn't want these two. But instead, what did they want? They wanted a elected parliament, right? So they wanted a parliament where members could be elected and they would take decisions collectively. And apart from that, they also wanted an independent judiciary, no, which would maintain the laws and of course they make sure that the laws are being implemented. If anybody violates the law, then they will know that they have to take the decisions accordingly, right? Yes, so this is all about liberals. Just one last thing about these liberals was the fact that they opposed universal adult franchise, right? They did not believe that everybody should vote, only men with property should vote. So are we clear? Are we clear? What is judiciary independent of whom? So judiciary is independent of the parliament or the government that is there. So here it will work by itself. Nobody can influence the judgment of the judiciary. That is what we mean by independent judiciary. Okay? Okay. Are we clear with this? Hello, and everybody, very quickly, if so far you understood chapter slowly becoming easy, then you know what to do. No, you have to hit that like button, you have to hit that subscribe button, because see, only in BYJU'S we are going to be taking care of you, where we make sure we committed, we promised you that we will help you with SST. We are here with SSTs, and then you know what you have to do now. No, you have to hit that like button and subscribe button. Yes, okay. To all my new students out there, make sure that you do that. Okay. Now let's move on, okay? Let's move on to the next part. I'm going slow with this because I don't again want you to get scared later on. Yes. So now, of course, around this time, right, we were also observing that, like I told you, factories came up in different parts of Europe and, of course, you know, giving rise to cities and new industrial areas. The context setting I told you about industrial revolution. Now here, what you need to remember is that the society was seeing that railways were getting expanded, trade networks were there. We see that, you know, men, women, children, all of them were getting opportunities to work. And of course, if you see, giving them employment. So now everybody's getting jobs. Everybody's now getting jobs. They're able to make money, right? So they were all very happy. But the thing is, I'll not say downside, but one thing to remember is factories and everything. Whenever I explain it to you, I tell you, whenever there is demand. So imagine that there is a toy, or I would say there is a novel which is very famous. Everybody wants to read it. Then the production of that novel, printing that novel will be like happening 10 times because there's increased demand. But let's say that now nobody wants to read a novel. They're like, no, I have my phone, I have PDFs, I don't need to read a novel. Then eventually the demand will go down, no? Because nobody's really buying it. And eventually what will happen is, after a point, if people are not only doing it, there's no point of spending so much money manufacturing it, right? They'll shut it down. So here, it is not always that there was demand for things in factories, right? If demand was there, then it's all happy, people are having work, everything is going full, you know, crazy. But if there is no demand, vice versa will happen, right? If the industrial goods were low, then unemployment increased. Right? So it was not very sure. It was a very shifty time during the Industrial Revolution, right? Ma'am, why did children work? See, at that point, because of the working families, which you will understand again, right? So when I go ahead and I tell you about how the conditions were there, you will understand that why children were put to work, because there was need for money, right? The amount that were being paid to the workers were not much, which is why sometimes the whole family had to work. Their education was affected. They were not educated properly. So working class people were just working. After a point, once the children were maybe old enough to work, they would also start working, right? Yes. So now, like I told you, those were the upsides that, everybody was working and everything. Downsides, and like how Vaishnavi asked, long hours. Okay, so factory owners who were there, all these factory owners, they would, see, the government will tell them that, people should be working maybe 10 hours a day. I'm giving you a hypothetical situation. So factory owners are told they are told that 10 hours a day they should work. But these factory owners are not like that. They'll be like, why should I make them only work 10 hours? If they work 20 hours, then I will get double the amount on the same day. So that is what the factory owners were doing. They were overworking. They were not really giving them a proper time. Okay, as much as we work, and like we always tell you, for you guys also, when you study, you have to study, but you also have to take breaks, right? But here long working hours are there. And the worst part is they are not paying them much. Low money, very less money and lot of work being done. So not really profitable for the workers. Now apart from this, different pay for men and women. Again, this is where biasness comes to the picture. Men and women were working, but women were paid maybe half of it or a little more than half. That's all. Right? So they will not tell you, they will not pay much. Now apart from all of this, housing and sanitation issues. There was no proper house. Because see, if this is a city, I mean, I'll show it to you in a bigger slide. Now imagine this was a city, okay? Industrial revolution here has happened very fast, okay? Everything is growing rapidly, which means that it has not taken time to accommodate the people. Now, if there's not proper space to accommodate, see, imagine this can only house about maybe 1,000 people, okay? But what's happening is in this space, now 2,000 people or maybe 3,000 people are living. I'm giving you some hypothetical idea. What has happened? In a small space, everybody is, clumped up into it. So, spaces start to become overcrowded. So, when we say housing issues, things are becoming overcrowded, there's no proper developed area or there are slums, and as a result, if there's no proper sanitation, that means no proper water being provided, and there's no proper drainage systems which are there, then that sanitation is also very poor, right? Sanitation is poor, which is why if you see all in all for the workers, it was not a very ideal place to thrive. I mean, how long are they going to keep working like this? And liberals and radicals, okay, some of them were also factory owners and landowners. So they realized that, see, if we don't solve their problems, it's not going to be helpful for me because now what's happening? I need to get my work done. But people who are working under me are not happy. Nothing for them is working right? So if nothing is going to help them out, if we don't take care of them, then if they decide to just leave and go, our factories are going to, stop, right? Nobody's going to work. So they realized that it's high time that we deal with the problems of the industrial workers so that, they are able to function better. Yes? Okay. Are we clear with this or have we gotten lost in between? How many of you are clear? For those of you for whom my video is not clear, go to settings and increase the quality of the video. You will be able to see. Yes. Are we clear? Hindi में मैं बात करूंगी अभी. Who are radicals? See, radicals are people, okay? They were people who believed in a parliament with majority population, right? Or who the majority population votes and keeps it there. And they believed that, women should have the right to vote, and they felt that wealth must be distributed uniformly among people. Yes? Who are peasants? See, workers are people who work in factories. Peasants are normally in your agrarian area. See, I told you, you have rural area, okay? And then you have your urban area, no? So in your urban areas where your factories are there, people working in these factories are the workers, right? Peasants are mainly, farmers. They are mainly found in your rural areas on the countryside mainly, who primarily look into farming, but they do like small other things. Are we clear with this? Are we clear? Agrarian is agricultural, right? Agrarian means agricultural place, right? Or they practice agriculture. All right, okay. No problem, Anshika, no problem. If in case you're not able to watch it now, come back and watch it later. You can increase the speed and you can watch, no problem. So like I said, there were some industries which were owned by liberals and radicals, and we see that they figured out that, to attain wealth, we must be helping the workers. So they realized that healthy and hard-working workers are what we need to function efficiently. So much what has happened. Now, along this time where slowly, right, you have ideas of liberals, you have ideas of radicals, they are, talking about, how the political system should reform or how society should be. There were also some ideas of nationalism, right? Now, nationalism, as we know, is a formation of a nation-like place, right? Or it's the idea of becoming a nation-like state, yes? And this concept is what we call as nationalism. Now these ideologies started to emerge because most of Europe back then was ruled by monarchs who are not really taking care of their people, right? So they realized that we have to overthrow the monarch, and of course in especially countries like France, Italy, Germany, there were nationalists as well who inspired the movements that took place later on, and they believed that in a nation all citizens were to have equal rights. That is what they were working for. Whether you're a factory owner, whether you are a worker, whether you're a peasant, basic rights must be the same for everybody. Because you know that if a monarch is there, there is going to be a hierarchy. No, there will be, maybe the czar on top, then followed by nobles, then you will have aristocrats, all those people will be there. Which is why they decided that, hey, you know what, the idea of nationalism should spread. Now, can you tell me, there is a very important person who was spreading the ideas of nationalism in Italy. Can you tell me his name? Can you tell me his name in the chat? Yes? Italy, yes. Very good, very good. Karl Marx, no. Vaishnavi has almost got it. Mazzini, yes, Mazzini, that is what we need to know. So he was an Italian nationalist and he wrote a lot of reforms, right? And of course he was spreading these ideas, no? So this of course later on went into many places. So when we talk about it, ideas of nationalism, later on when you go to 10th grade, you learn about nationalism in India, right? So those are things that we learn about. Very good, very good. What is the main cause of World War II? Okay, we'll get to that when I do World War II, okay. Yes, when did this happen? 19th or 20th century. So this is happening around the 19th century Europe, okay. What we are talking about, ideas, so this is just after French Revolution we are talking. How these things came and how these events led to something we will discuss which is known as socialism. So if they ask you in your exam, what are the events that led to socialism or the ideology of socialism to arise? You need to give some basic pointers, like how there were different political strands or political ideologies, like your liberals, the radicals, the conservatives, what their ideologies was and their ideals of course, and how the industrial revolution had an impact on the people, right? How the working class was affected by it, and how around that time the ideas of nationalism was also spreading. So very quickly in the chat, I want you to tell me what were the conditions of the workers during the mid-19th century plot or post, this is not pot, this is post-industrial revolution or during industrial revolution. In the chat, can you tell me? Yes, very quickly. No, it's okay Vaishnavi, you just need to know the terminologies. What were the economic conditions? We have discussed this, no? There are 4 points that you need to tell me about. You can tell me one by one. Let's see if you've got it. All right, everybody, very quickly in the chat. It was bad, fine, but you should also tell me, right? Very poor working, very poor, okay, but what exactly was happening? There are specifics, no? You can't just write it was bad working condition or poor working condition, no? Yes, long working hours, you'll have to specify. Long working hours, bad sanitation, right? Then what else was there? No equal rights, very good. Or you can say that the pay, there were low wages and pay was different for men and women. Very good, very good. Yes, what problem? These are the problems, right? So when you are writing this, you can take a screenshot because if you get this question, you know what to write then. So you have long working hours, right? Which was, of course, much beyond what was expected. Poor working conditions as well. Low wages which were provided and poor sanitation. What else can you mention? You can also mention how they were having housing troubles also, right? So they were also facing housing troubles. Now, all of these things, right? The fact that the workers were neglected, their conditions were not really, or their problems were not really heard, that gave rise to socialism, okay? So what is socialism, right? Let's see. Now, this is very important, okay? And this is very important to understand. What is socialism? It's an ideology. Okay, Nazism, socialism, all of these things are ideologies which are put forth. Okay, and what do they want in socialism? They want all the things, right? It is a social and economic doctrine that calls for a public, right? Public ownership. Ownership of what? Ownership of property and natural resources. Now, so far, I was specifying how we have factory owners, how we have, landowners. So, there is one person who's owning it, right? So, let me tell you. I have one land, okay? I have land 1. Now, land 1 is owned by this man here. And this man, in turn, employs maybe 5 people, right? So, he employs 4 people to take care of it. And maybe these guys are all doing some agriculture. And he's made good amount of profit, right? So he's made good amount of profit here. Now what happens is that from this profit, he will give maybe little bit of this to each of them. But a lot of profit that he makes is going to him alone, right? So most profit is going here. But whereas ideally, he just made these people do the work. No, he's just standing there, maybe managing them, or at that time they were just instructing them. They were not even taking part, right? So at that point, what's happening? These guys are doing all the work, just getting little, maybe one coin. And now most of it is going into his pocket, right? So this is where it is going. Which is what these people said that, you know what? I don't think it's happening, right? So I think socialism believed that it should be owned by the public. So if there is a group of people working on this land, then everybody must equally, like whoever has worked on it and got the benefits based on how much ever work they do, they should get that much amount of maybe the profit or money or whatever. So mainly the thing was individuals should not live in isolation, but they must be in cooperation, right? Cooperation. Now we're talking about collectively. And everything that is produced by the people in some sense is a social product, and everybody who contributes to the production of good is entitled to a fair share in it. Are we clear with this? समझ नहीं आया? ठीक है, मैं हिंदी में एक और बार बोलूंगी. Back then, जब लैंड ओनर्स थे या फैक्ट्री ओनर्स थे, वो क्या करते थे कि एक लैंड था, वहां पे मे बी एग्रीकल्चर वो करते थे. यहाँ पे ये एक इंसान है जो इस लैंड को ओन करता है. अभी ये क्या करेगा? ये 4 लोगों को एम्प्लॉय करेगा. इन 4 लोगों को काम देके वो बोलेगा कि हाँ, अभी यहाँ पे आप सब प्रैक्टिस कर लो, आप सब यहाँ पे एग्रीकल्चर कर लो ताकि हम प्रॉफिट बना सकते हैं. तो ये 4 लोग यहाँ पे काम कर करके दिन और रात काम करके अभी प्रॉफिट मिला. ऑलराइट, अभी लेट्स अज्यूम हमारा प्रॉफिट 100 रुपीज है, ठीक है? 100 रुपीज प्रॉफिट बन गया. ये 100 रुपीज इसके पास है. नाउ ही विल पे देम मनी, उनका सैलरी देना है, तो मे बी ही विल गिव देम 5 रुपीज और मे बी ही विल गिव देम ओनली 10 रुपीज. चारों को 10 रुपीज देगा. अभी क्या बचा है उसके पास? उसके पास अभी भी 60 रुपीज बचा है. तो ज्यादा काम नहीं करके उसको ज्यादा प्रॉफिट मिल रहा है. ऑन दी अदर हैंड यहाँ पे वर्कर्स है जो बहुत काम करके उनके पैसे बहुत, इट्स नॉट कमिंग इनफ, राइट? इज नॉट गेटिंग अ लॉट ऑफ मनी. तो सोशलिज्म क्या बोलता है? सोशलिज्म इज वेरी क्लियर. सोशलिज्म इज लाइक, अगर हमारे पास ये लैंड है, 4 लोग इसमें काम करेंगे, ऑलराइट, और ये 4 लोग अज्यूमिंग इक्वली काम करते हैं और 100 रुपीज का प्रॉफिट बनाते हैं. अकॉर्डिंग टू सोशलिज्म इक्वली ये डिवाइड होगा अमंगस्ट 4 पीपल, ताकि प्रॉफिट, इफ X amount of investment or if X amount of effort is put into it, then that much amount of money you get. Are we clear? समझ आ गया? Amazing. I will tell you, Yashwant, towards the end, okay? Yes. Okay. Now, of course, as you know, right? So this is the basic ideology of socialism. Now, later on, of course, for practicing or to propagate the socialism, there were various people who were involved, right? So mainly in socialism, they believed it at that time was a very far-fetched thought. They thought, wow, that is like super into the future, and they really believed in it, like a lot of people, right? And what they thought is having private property, no? Me being an owner, me owning this land, that was the root of all social evils that were coming then, right? And it gained a lot of popularity, especially for the working class. Now they were very happy. They're like, hey, this is a kind of society that I wouldn't mind being a part of it. And they spoke about radical reforms in society. So they said that this is how we start, and we bring in a new age society. And some pioneers who were there, of course, were Marx and Engels, right? So Karl Marx here, of course, propagated Marxism, and most importantly, he had written books, and he was an avid reader, and there were a lot of things that he had put about how to bring about this new age society. Now, of course, the main thing that the socialists demanded, what did the socialists want? No private property. People should not be having their own property. But welfare of the workers. So they were thinking on another angle from the workers' end. Their welfare should be there. And many people, right, they started campaigning against private properties that were there. Now, what they felt, or what the socialists believed, that these factory owners, they only care about themselves. They don't care about the the working class, and all they want to do is, take their money and not pay them enough, right? But what did socialists want? People who believed in socialism, they wanted collective social interests, which means that you should now start thinking about everybody and not just yourself, right? So that is what they mean by it. Okay. Now, two very people who we should be remembering is Robert Owens and Louis Blanc, okay? And they encourage the idea of a cooperative. Now, if you don't know what a cooperative is and you are reading this word cooperative for the first time, what do you think it is? What is a cooperative? Okay. When will you become a bio teacher? When I have my bio class. I will become a bio teacher then. Socialism, yes, more or less the same. The origins of communism come from socialism, right? Yes. Very good. Working together, yes. That means they are very good, very good. Working together. So, anybody else who thinks, what is a cooperative? If I tell you, all of you, when will, I want all of you to cooperate and give me the answer. So, what do I mean by this? When I say I want all of you to cooperate and work, give me the answer to this question. Collection, yes. Very good. Teamwork. Simple. Very good, Arohi. Very good. Adjust, okay. Working together, very good, very good. Most of you have got this part correctly. So as you know, right, a cooperative is nothing but it is a system, right? So we see that this right here is a system wherein people are coming together, they are working together and they are reaping the benefits, right? So a cooperative was started by Robert Owens. And can you tell me what is the name of the cooperative he started in Indiana? What was it called? He started one in Indiana and it was called something which you will need to know. What is the name of it? Yes, in the chat. Very good, everybody. Very quickly, can you tell me, or you're like, ma'am, we don't know the answer to this. We don't know what it was called. Don't know. It's okay. If you don't know, you tell me. See, I always tell you one thing. Any question I ask, there are times when you will not know the answer, okay? There are times when sometimes you ask me questions for which I may not know the answer also. We will never know everything, right? But you should tell me, ma'am, I don't know, you tell me the answer, okay? Very good, very good. Gamer has got it. I can also see Raghu has sent it to me. Yes, it is called as New Harmony. Alright, so New Harmony was a cooperative he started. Harmony, right? This is O here. So what was this New Harmony that was there? So basically, it's like, it was a group, it's like a factory that he had, right? And he had a lot of people working for him. But he was a very progressive person. So let me just tell you a little bit about it. When I was reading it, it was very interesting. Now, present day, how a lot of companies work, right? We see that there's a kind of management that we call. It's a lot of corporate jargon I'm using, but it's okay. Like, I'm just letting you know a little bit. So you'll have like a management, or if you have a team and there's a team leader and maybe they want to take a decision, what they'll do is they'll first consult with their team. He'll ask, okay, you know what do you think is going to happen? Do you think this is a good thing to do, or is it that? Kind of like how in your group project, right? Like if you do a project together with 4 of your friends, for the project, all of you will sit together, you'll pool in your ideas, you will see what works, what doesn't work, and you do all of it. So this kind of ideology was never there back in the 19th century. People were just ordering others. You have to do this, or this is what you have to do. There was never a conversation between a leader or maybe a owner, a factory owner or a land owner to his workers. But Robert Owens was one of the guys who, what he would do is he started introducing management. He would go talk to his workers, see if that's something that they wanted to do, and then collectively he used to make a decision. Now, of course, people back then did not really think Robert Owen was progressive, because even then, this was, although he was building towards a socialist cooperative, it was still him alone, right? Similarly, when you talk about Louis Blanc, he tried the same thing. But in both their cases, what happened? It was just them. It was not coming from the government. Now, it's one thing as an individual I am driving it. But imagine if a government would be the one doing it. The impact that it would have. See, we're talking in terms of impact. The impact that is going to have is going to be greater. Okay. New Harmony means, New Harmony is the name that is given to the place. Okay, nothing much. Harmony, it's just a name. There's nothing much to it. It's very simple. No problem, Raghav. You can come back. I never say no to that. But come back and watch the whole video, right? Yes. So that's where we see that Karl Marx and Engels' ideas came into the picture, which shaped socialism, right? So we see that Marx introduced the term capitalists. So the people that I told you, one person employing the others, then paying them daily wages, then maybe taking profit, that kind of what you observe is a capitalist thing that I explained to you, right? And it was referring to the propertiered, people who had property. What is a propertiered class of society? People who had property, right? And Marx believed that workers were responsible for creating profits, and the factory owners were not really the ones who were responsible. It was the workers, which is why if you make profit, you give it to the workers. That is what he believed. And he said that, needs a communist society, or they need a socialist society to get out of capitalist system. So if you want to stop this, then you need to come out of it and create a socialist society. So what is a communist society? A society where all property was socially controlled. Are we clear with this? Make a note of this. This is a 1-mark question that can come. How can we define a communist society? Yes? Okay. Very good, Unknown. Very good. See, imperialism is imperial power, no? Like, basically, it's like an imperial rule that we say for monarchs mainly, where it is going on, and again, they come with absolute power, right? Okay, no problem, no problem. Those of you who are saying, ma'am, I'm leaving now, you come back, okay? It's okay, whenever you come back, you come back. All right, very good. So very quickly, you have a question. Robert Owens introduced the idea of cooperatives replacing private properties to form equal social order in America. Is the statement true or false? Yes? Okay, Sonal, so far have you understood? You are saying, I know this is a very tough chapter, but so far have you understood what I have taught you? So far, you give me a yes or no. Very good, everybody, very good. Yes. So far you understood. No, then you just stay till the end. I'll help you out and you will be able to understand this chapter, okay? This statement is true, guys. For those of you telling me, ma'am, this is false. Robert Owen introduced the idea. So, Indiana is in America only, no? And he introduced what? He introduced a cooperative which was called as New Harmony, which made sure that private property. So, basically what he owned was to create a equal social order. I told you, he introduced good kind of management. He was like a team leader who used to take his inputs from his team, right? So, that is Robert Owen. So now, of course, socialism was considered to be a people's movement. Now they started gaining momentum. And this word about socialism started spreading to different parts, right? And they slowly started making a workers' association. So now different parts of Europe started hearing about it, and they made a workers' association, okay? Now what will they do in this workers' association? It's kind of like your go-to place, okay? So imagine all these workers are there, like imagine all of your school friends, imagine you're in school and you make like small clubs, right? So you can keep an analogy like that the association is like this. But in our clubs, normally what we do is we have a lot of fun or we spend time with our friends. But here they used to talk a little bit on serious problems. So they used to talk about issues regarding wages, work hours, and if they needed any help, the workers' association would gather and they would help them out. Now, they started forming individually all over Europe, okay? They were scattered everywhere, right? And if you see here, all the socialists, so basically everybody came together and they formed the Second International in 1889. Now, can you tell me, is this a national, was it located to one place or it had socialists from all over Europe? Can you tell me? Yes? Can you tell me what happened in Second International? Members or the socialists who were part of this group called Second International, were they all from just one place or they were all over the world, right? International, yes. Okay, very good guys, very good. All over the world, very good. Yes, Nikita, I'll be coming very soon. So first I'll do the one shots and then we'll be having that. Don't worry. All over. I'll not say all over the world. That's very extreme. But of course, this was gaining momentum in Europe, right? So I had members from different parts. Okay, had different parts. Now we saw that again, like I told you, workers in Germany and England formed these workers associations to demand better working conditions and for better living. So now once socialism had taken form, the workers were the ones who were attracted to it, right? They were the ones who were attracted. Now what happened was that all the socialists, right? They see that they form the socialists. So now this is the part which I think would be something you need to focus on. Now the socialists formed something called as a Socialist Democratic Party. Now how did this party come into the picture? Who formed it? We will learn about it anyway as we go into Russian Empire, okay? But mainly there was a democratic party which was out there that used to gather, they used to get a lot of appreciation or they used to get a lot of, support, right? And this democratic party eventually started winning seats. So in Germany and all, they started winning seats as well to be a part of the government. And we also had Labour Party which had the socialists as well as the trade union. So this also included your trade union and all your traders, right? Who export, import things from different parts. They would form your trade union and they emerged in Britain. We had a social party in France. So now what's happening? Germany, France, Britain, all having different parties which believed in socialism, right? And this was also. So basically these people, the socialists who were there, no? They had very strong ideas to bring about change in society. Which is why when they were in the government, their opinions really mattered and we saw that their decisions, they helped in taking decisions that would shape how the politics or how a society would function, right? Yes. What is the difference between mutiny is when it ends in killing, right? So there is mutiny means there's a lot of murder and killing. Rebel is when you just voice out. You're saying, no, I'm not going to do this, right? So if somebody tells me, hey, I want you to move that side, I'm like, no, this is where I want to stand. This is what I believe in. That is rebelling. You are rebelling vocally. Mutiny is when it gets physical and in some cases people take their lives. So are we clear? What is capitalism? See, capitalism is when you have one person who owns it privately, right? So this is owned. Whatever factory, land or whatever is there, it is owned privately. And then what we observe is that he employs people and they are paid regularly. But mainly the profits that are there come to this person or maybe a governing body that is there, right? Yes, in 1898, the Social Democratic Party is formed. Very good, very good. Yes, are we clear so far? That tells you all about socialism in Europe. One part of the chapter, simple part of the chapter is over. Now we go into the beautiful story of Russian Revolution. Yes? Very quickly guys, I know it took me 1 hour to complete this part, but are we clear with this part? Because if you have your basis of socialism, no, the remaining part becomes easy peasy. I'm telling you. Yes? Do you want a 1 minute water break? Quick water break for all of you to drink some water? You want a quick 1 minute break and then we'll start with Russian Revolution, okay? Drink some water now. Okay, I'll also drink some water in this gap. Take a 1 minute water break and have your textbooks with you. And I do know that you all want some more sessions in SST. So what you can do is one on definitely maybe once we finish off the chapters in history, we'll do one on how to remember all the important dates per chapter. We can have some more. We will be having more sessions, but because we're a little short on time, we're focusing on completing chapters. And of course, we'll be helping you out with some quizzes, some questions that are there. So of course, between the chapters, between the sessions also, we'll incorporate some of your questions so that it gets easy for recall. Okay. Yes. Vishnu, can we just check the chat once? Yes. Just give me one moment, everybody. Okay. Yes. Soviet Union, USSR, we'll do all of that. Don't worry. Alright, and yes, if some of you want to eat lunch right now and watch the session also, I'm completely fine with it. I'll not say no because I know it's lunch time. But don't, if you want to watch the class and eat lunch, I'm completely okay with it, okay? So it's completely okay. Now let's move on to Russian Revolution, right? So in Russian Revolution, we are going to be talking about what happened. Now see, what we know as Russia today includes different parts, right? But when we are talking about this context setting is around 1914, right? Or a little before that. Okay, so around 1914 and a little before that is what we are going to be talking about. Now, the Russian Empire that was there not just included your present day Russia, but it also included some parts in Central Asia side like your Georgia, Armenia. Then it also extended a little bit onto the other side as well, which had your, Estonia, your Estonian regions. It had Lithuania, parts of Poland, and then of course you had, I'm not able to remember one. Yes, you had parts of Germany as well. So it included a lot of regions. Okay. So in your textbook, of course, it's marked. So you need to know what the Russian Empire has. Russian Empire, you need to know, extended much beyond the present day Russia. And of course, in the Russian Empire, back around 1914, we had Tsar Nicholas II. Now see, it will be written as this, no? I'm sure you would read it. It's not Tsar, it is not Tsar, it's Za, okay? Pronunciation wise, if you check, even if you check it online, they say that the pronunciation is Za, okay? So that's how we will pronounce it, alright? So now, of course, if you see here, right, we know that this is Tsar Nicholas II, and he was from the Romanov family. And mainly around the time of his rule, the religions that were practiced, the variety of religions. We saw that there were, of course, the Catholics, we had people who were into Christianity, there were Protestants, there were, Buddhists, Muslims. You found a lot of mixed religions who were there during his rule. Now, in his in his court, right, you would see that the social structure had these levels. So first and foremost, you had your Tsar, right, followed by which you had all the nobles who were there. Then you had factory workers, then craftsmen, and you had agriculturists. But now Russia, the Russian Empire, I would say, being so vast, we see that almost 85%, okay, 85% of the population were agriculturists, right? So most of them were practicing agriculture. Now on the other hand, if you were to compare this same agriculturists with maybe Germany and France, you'll find only maybe 45-50% of their population is practicing agriculture. So what happened? Most of your empire is practicing agriculture. That means what? Of course, your agricultural produce will be more, no? Very simple, same, like very simple. So here if you look at it, more amount of grain they used to produce. They produce so much grain that even if you give a lot of it to people, they could still export it, right? So they could do it for local needs as well as for the market, and they were able to export it, right? And of course, if you see here, in this case, mainly the Tsar, the land ownership. So now again, we're coming back to land. Most of the fight is for land only throughout, right? So here we see that the land ownership was restricted to the Tsar and the nobility and the Orthodox Church. So very similar to how when we were learning about estates in French Revolution, no, very similar to that. You have the Tsar, then you have your nobility, Orthodox Church, but of course the hierarchy will be slightly different. Now in this case, for the nobles, it is not based on, a voting system. Like in this area, all the people will vote for one person and he's like, yay, all this land belongs to me. It's not like that. It's based on how the Tsar feels, right? So the Tsar, it's based on popularity and the work that is done for the Tsar. So all in all, if you see, he's an absolute monarch. Like everything is his decision. Nobody is allowed to say anything. Now, this is not something people liked, right? The fact that nobles, okay, this is what I want you to focus on. They were not very happy with the fact that nobles were, owning these lands. And some of the lands were owned by Orthodox Church, but the cultivators who were there, the peasants who were there, they had very high respect for the church, which is why they would never say anything or do anything against the church. But that is not the case with, the nobility, right? What happened was, most often than not, these people, the nobles who owned the land, right, most often than not were attacked by the peasants. So what they will do, they'll be like, they'll have to pay some fee, right, for maybe using the land. There were taxes which were levied. They'll not pay anything. They will not pay the rent. Sometimes they will get very angry and there'll be violent incidents. So the nobles were facing a lot of backlash and violence because of the decisions taken by the Tsar. And what these people would do, the peasants, right, sometimes what they would do is they would pool in their lands, okay. So imagine I have 3 people, okay. I have 1, I have 2, and I have 3. Now these are 3 people who have 3 different lands. But sometimes what they will do is they will collectively bring their land together as per the family needs. So based on what family they belong to and what they require, they'll bring these lands together, and what they will do is they will divide them, okay. As per the family's needs, they will divide them. Now it could be like, I gave you a very easy one where everything looked the same, but what they would do is, they would convene on what demands. Okay, if this family requires more, okay, this family is sufficient, let's, now divide the land so that they can use more of it and make the money that they require. So that is what they used to do. And this group who used to decide how much land who is going to get, they called it as a commune or a mir, right? Are we clear so far? Are we clear? Yes? Are we clear with how the Russian Empire and the economy and the society was? Okay, this is going to take another 1 hour maximum. I'll try to wind it up in 1 hour. It will not take more than that. Crystal clear, ma'am. Amazing. Yes. Okay. Notes maker, I can see that you are having some doubts. Okay. And yes, a lot of you saying again, for those of you who have just come asking me to speak in Hindi, like I told you, if there are specific sections that you don't understand at all, I will teach you in Hindi. But the main reason I'm teaching in English is because at the end of the day, you have to write your answers in English. No, that's why I'm teaching in English. Okay? Yes, in future called collectivization. Very good, very good. So now, of course, this was all about what was happening. No, this is Russian Empire. But now we have onset of Industrial Revolution. But unlike in other parts of Europe, in Russian Empire, only few places had these industries. So remember this, factories were mainly set up where in Russia? They were set up in 2 places, St. Petersburg, right? And it was set up in Moscow. Remember this, very, very important, mark it in your textbook also. Now in these areas, you mainly found craftsmen. Now, how many of you get confused with, ma'am, you were telling workers, then you said peasants. Now, what are these craftsmen? How many of you are confused with workers and craftsmen? Yes? Okay. Ma'am, can you explain this one more time? Which one do you want me to explain one more time? The peasant part, the part that we just discussed on commune? Okay, I'll explain it. Don't worry. I'll explain it once more. Don't worry. Okay? Yes. Oh, it's okay, Badal Kumar. It happens. Part on commune. I'll do it. Okay, I'll do it. Yes. Everything. Oh. That, for now, whatever you have missed, you go back and watch it once again. But from now on, you pay attention. Okay, we're just doing the Russian Revolution part. Now see, your craftsmen. Look at the word literally. Okay? Craft. That means you're making something. Right? So craftsmen are people who have skill. They are your skilled laborers. Okay. Now what do I mean by a skilled laborer? Now a skilled laborer or a skilled person has a certain skill, which means that he could either make a wooden spoon, right? So here he could make toys, or he could make spoons, right? Or maybe there are people who could do embroidery. No? Now to do all of this, one fine day I cannot wake up and decide that yes, today I will do embroidery. I don't have the skill to do embroidery. I'll maximum move the thread in and out and then it's going to look really horrible and I don't have the skill. But on the other hand, if I go to a factory, okay, I go to a factory and I know that there are some basic things I can do. Somebody tells me this is what you have to do, move this thing from here to there, or maybe, keep doing this, you have to package maybe the, whatever comes after manufacturing, you need to take everything and put it into one box. I don't need a lot of trained, skilled for that. No, I can just do it. Anybody can do it. So your factory workers are your laborers like that who are doing the basic jobs in the industry. Craftsmen are the people who have skill. Peasants are your people in the countryside. So are we clear with these terminologies? Yes, like weaving of cloth. Very good, very good. Yes. Aim is before your exam. Okay, that is our aim. Yes, and craftsmen are those which have their own small businesses. Because they have their skill, they have their own small business also. That means if I want to make toys, I can have my own business as well, no? Yes. So now, of course, what happened was mainly in your, in these areas like Moscow and St. Petersburg, we mainly found craftsmen, okay? But what happened was with the Industrial Revolution, there was a lot of foreign investments, okay? So other people who were there from countries abroad, right, they were pouring in money for production. And especially in Russia, there's a lot of energy, right? So you have iron, you have coal, then there's iron, steel production. And with the foreign investments, what was observed is that the coal production became double, right? So it became 2x, the production. Now when you look at iron and steel, we see that this became 4 times production. It quadrupled with all the money. Now for all of this, if you want to double the production, you want to make it 4 times, 5 times, you need people to do that, no? So what eventually started happening was with the factories and the railroads, everything expanding, more number of factory workers were there. And we see that eventually the number of craftsmen, which means at one point they were only mainly craftsmen. Now what happened is number of craftsmen have almost become equal to the number of factory workers. And despite that it looks very, like a beautiful painted picture, yay, economy is booming, everybody is very happy, looks like that. But sadly it wasn't. Because at that point, we saw that the workers were divided, right? The workers were divided. We saw that again, the employers were using. So employers were again using their working conditions against them, overworking them and all of that, right? So basically, if you see time-wise, craftsmen worked about for 15 hours in a day. 15 hours, right? While on the other hand, a factory worker was working 10 to 12 hours in a day. That means most of your day is gone there only, right? Working. And apart from that, we see that most factories were owned by industrialists. And there were government supervisors. Like somebody from the government will come and check like, hey, is everything going properly? Are you making sure that they're working on for the limited amount of time? Because from of course the government, they'll be telling you that these many hours is what they have to work. But clearly they were over exceeding it. So what would happen? Most of the factories were left unchecked. And they would, even though there would be a supervisor checking if they had money, if they were getting proper wages, if they were working proper hours, even then the factory owners will not follow the rules. Which is why we saw that there was a lot of workers coming together. Because nobody was looking after them. So then they decided, okay, we'll only come together. So despite the fact that workers were divided into different social groups, so they divided them based on where they were found, whether they were settled in the countryside or whether, they were settled in the urbans, based on gender, male and female, and their skill set. We saw that despite all of this, the workers united against their employers. And we see that the Russian working class slowly started to rise against their employers. Yes? Are we clear, everybody? Are we clear? Yes? PDF will be sent to you on Telegram today only. Don't worry. Awesome, guys. Very good. Thank you for that diamond creation. Thank you. Yes. I saw Badal asking me, ma'am, I have a doubt to ask you. Please let me know. Badal, you just subscribe to our channel. Then you have nothing to worry about. Okay? Foreign investment of his goods. So foreign investments were there. No, they were giving in money for production, for manufacture. No? Very good, very good. Okay. Yes. So now with this, of course, we saw that working class is slowly uniting, right? And again, let me tell you, this is happening side by side. Your socialism ideologies are also growing. So now what happened? all the socialists in Russia. Remember this, very, very important, okay? All the socialists in Russia formed the Social Democratic Party or the Social Democratic Workers' Party in 1898. Remember the date, put a cute star mark in your textbook, highlight it, write it, whatever, okay? But keep this. Now the thing is, your political party was made in 1898, but you have the Tsar, right, who was an absolute monarch, which means that he never really wanted to have like a proper government per se. So technically this party was illegal. So till 1914, right, that's almost for a good amount of 14, 16 years, this political party was illegal. But they were not keeping quiet. What they would do, they would spread their ideas. They wanted to make sure that the masses would reach, people would get to know what they are doing, right? So they would make sure that they said, they have newspapers, they would have workers mobilized, and they would organize strikes and protests, right? So that they would get to know, people would get to know that, workers are not happy. We are not happy with the fact that you are neglecting us, right? So this was one group of people. Now, there was another group of people which felt that, see, workers are there, but for a long time in Russia, the peasants who were in the countryside, right, they were the natural socialists. Because again, you are asking me, no ma'am, what is that commune? So normally what would happen is, if there is an area of land, okay, this is a land and there are 3 people which is owned by family 1, 2 and 3. Now what happens is that at regular intervals, what would happen is, they would come back and see what is happening with this land. So then maybe assuming family 1 has made good amount of money, maybe they made 100 rupees, okay. But family 2 has made only 40 rupees profit, not a lot of money. And family 3 has made 80 rupees, okay fine, maybe adjustable. So what will happen is regularly because family 2 now needs money, family 2 needs some ideal conditions to thrive. So then what will happen is a commune, okay. A commune or a mayor that we discussed about, they'll come together and they will re-look at this land. So they'll say, okay, 1 has made enough money, so what we will do is, for some, maybe, I'm giving you a hypothetical scenario, maybe for a brief period of time, we will redistribute the land in such a way that all of them can make profit accordingly. So that is what we mean by a commune. And because they were doing this, some socialists felt like, hey, our peasants have been doing this for quite some time. And they have been doing this practice of dividing lands according to the family's needs. Which is why, if you see, we believe that they should have a say in it. And that is why all the socialists in the countryside formed your Socialist Revolutionary Party in 1900. Are we clear? Are we clear? Yes? Mobilized means they will set it out, okay. Like for example, they'll say, you 5 go to this place, okay. You 5 go to MG Road. No, there's no MG Road, but I'm saying if I have 10 people and I want to let people across Bangalore know something, then I'll send 2 people to different paths. That is what we mean by mobilized. Okay. Yes, okay fine, you only have to tell, okay fine, I will tell the moderator, okay, Diamond, alright, yes. So now you have 2 parties with you, you have your Social Democratic Workers' Party, and again when you are writing your notes, make a simple one like this. So you have your Socialist Democratic Workers' Party and you have one Revolutionary Party, right? And then write the points down under them one by one, when it was originated. Yes. Yes. Sorry about that, he just muted me for 2 minutes to ask me something. So like I was saying, make a table like that and you can study about these 2. Now the thing is, your Social Democratic Workers' Party, they were not very happy about this revolutionary party coming into the picture. And one such person who was not very happy is your Vladimir Lenin, very, very important person throughout the revolution when we talk about him. Because what Lenin said is, he's like, these peasants are not one group. They are not united as one group. Because in peasants, again, you would find hierarchy. There are some rich peasants who are there. There are some maybe poor peasants. Then there are some people who will employ other people to do their work. So they are not the same. You cannot call it as a unit, right? You want a socialist party where everybody is the same. He wanted a group which was united as one. So what did he do? He wanted to organize movement based on one. So he wanted to have this one united group. Okay, he's like, I want 10 people in my team and I want all of them to be equal and the same. So he wanted a tightly organized party and he wanted them to be very highly disciplined. Okay, so he's like, if we are going to carry forward the socialism cause, then we need to be disciplined, we need to be strict, and we need to be unified. And again, another thing that was there is, again, it felt like you're narrowing it down. We want to have freedom of deciding things. But with Lenin's idea, people started getting a feeling within the worker party that I don't think he's feeling very flexible, right? So what did he do? There were some people who believed that we should be in a party that is loosely organized. Now what do I mean by loosely organized? Does it mean that, yeah, they're very carefree? No, they wanted flexibility mainly. So if, for example, I decide to maybe paint my room, right? But I also live with my brother also shares the room with me. Now the decision of painting my room just can't be mine, right? I'll have to talk to my brother, ask him if he's okay with it because I'll have to move his things. Then of course later on I need his help to keep it back, and then of course he must also be okay with the color. So that kind of back and forth discussion with my brother that I'm having is exactly what these guys wanted to do. They were like, listen, we want something wherein we have flexibility, where members can discuss, point out suggestions, and be open to the idea of nations, right? So that is what they wanted to do. So based on this ideology change, what happened? We saw that the Socialist Democratic Party divided into two groups, right? So you have the Bolshevik group and the Menshevik group, right? So your Bolshevik group mainly came and the people who were under Lenin, right? So they came in the Bolshevik group. While the Menshevik group were the ones who were loosely, they were very relaxed about it. And they wanted more, I'm not relaxed, sorry, that's not the right word. But rather they wanted more flexibility. Yes? Okay. When will you come for class 8? This week I'll come live, don't worry. Don't worry for class 8. Are we clear so far, everybody? You have all gotten lost in between, right? Yes. Yes, Hyperman animation. Okay. Ma'am, can you repeat what is socialism? Okay. Cooperation point. Cooperation point. I think when I was discussing on cooperatives, is that what you are asking? Yes. Okay. See, socialism, like I'm telling you once again, socialism is an ideology, okay? So socialism is a set of ideas where they believed that if there was a land, right? Or there are natural resources, anything wherein if you know that this is owned by somebody. For example, I am owning this land and I am making money, right? Socialism believes that it should not be owned by me, but it should be owned by people, right? It should be owned by the public, yes? And that's how it will be distributed. That is what we mean by socialism. Communism is how we repeat, like basically the ideas of socialism later on underwent a lot of changes. And you'll understand why when we come to the end of it. It underwent a lot of reforms. Even in India, they started rethinking a lot of things which became communism, right? So a lot of reforms that were there. Yes. Okay, all right. So are we clear, everybody? Are we clear? I hope I've tackled all of your doubts. And I hope you're all not falling asleep in between like, Arey ma'am, abhi 2 minutes. Yes, capitalism I have already explained it once, where you have somebody who privately owns it, and of course the profits that are made from it goes to him, right? It is privately owned. While in socialism, the ideology is that land and natural resources are publicly owned. Okay. Can we say it is more or less? Yes, more or less I would say. Yes, I speak in Hindi. My name is Aishwarya. I think you are new to class. Yes. Just give me one moment. Your chat has gotten frozen here. So just give me one moment. Okay. All right. Who was the leader leader of the Menshevik group, is it? It was Martov. I forgot to mention that. This was led by Martov, Julius Martov. Okay. Alright everybody, let's focus. Explain the two differences between Bolshevik and Menshevik. See, one thing I would tell you is who led them, right? The first difference is this was mainly led by Lenin, this was led by Martov. Second thing is Bolshevik people mainly believed to have, they had tightly, and again we will learn more on what they did, but mainly Lenin here wanted a tightly organized, highly disciplined group, okay? So he wanted a tightly organized, highly disciplined group wherein they could propagate the ideas of socialism. Here they were not of the fan of that. They wanted a loosely organized group of people wherein there could be flexible decisions. So when I say flexible decisions, it means that any decision must have back and forth, conversation on it, and then you do it. But with the way Lenin was proposing earlier, this is in the early days, right? It was not so. Okay? Yes. Very good, Anand. Very good. So very quickly, in 1900, which political party supported the issues? Oops. Just give me one moment. Yeah. In 1900, which political party supported the issues of transferring land over to Russian peasantry? The Bolsheviks, Mensheviks, Labour Party, or Socialist Revolutionary Party? What is the correct answer in the chat? Focus on, it is in 1900. We're talking about a political party which is talking about the Russian peasants who believed that they are natural socialists. Very good, everybody. Very good. Yes. Wonderful. Wonderful. Very good. The correct answer here is option D, Socialist Revolutionary Party. Quick question for all of you. When was the Social Democratic Party when was it organized or when was it founded? Which year was the Socialist Democratic Party founded? Can you give me the year? You know that this is 1900. No, it was closely founded 2 days before. Yeah, not 1998. It is in 1898, right? 1898, your Socialist Democratic Party was founded, which eventually split into these two. Yes? Not 1998, okay? It is 1898. Right. See, one number here and there makes such a big difference. Alright. So now, of course, all is well and good here. But what happened was around 1904. See, we are closing in. Around 1904, our Tsar Nicholas II is still there. He's still ruling. But what happened was, although the economy seemed like it was shaping well, it wasn't. Because you see, prices of essential goods, basics like food, right? It rose sharply. And what happened was workers who were in the city ended up paying more money, but they were not getting enough. So basically what's happening, if a worker was getting 100 rupees, he'll end up spending at least 95 rupees on all the basic necessities that are there. Which means that he's getting very less money and he's spending way too much also. And as a result, what happened? More and more workers started joining in the workers' association. They slowly started getting in. They realized that the government or our ruler is not really going to take care of it. And so as you can see, there's a lot of unrest. Okay, people are not happy. A lot of discontent is there. And just around that time, now this is important. Make a note of it in your textbook. Okay, super important. Now the trigger for crisis. Okay, there was something that started a trigger, right? There should be something which should have pushed people over the edge. And that was when 4 members of the Putilov Iron Works were dismissed. So here only already what happened was people were getting fired unnecessarily. Okay, people were getting fired, they were getting laid off, they were going out of jobs, and along the same time the prices are rising. And one fine day in Putilov Iron Works, 4 members were dismissed. And this dismissal called for immediate action. So people went on strike, right? So they demanded, people went on strike. They demanded that at least 8 hours of working should be there a day and higher wages, of course. And they wanted better conditions. So they started striking again. They started striking against for a better working life or a working condition. Now what happened was, like, strikes were going on, protests were going on. One fine day, a peaceful procession. So there was no indication of violence from the protesters, okay? Peacefully, they had started a procession which was led by Father Gapin, right? Make a note of this. This is very, very, very important, right? So a peaceful procession was led by Father Gapin to the Winter Palace where the Tsar resides, right? So they marched to the Winter Palace. Now what happened was, the Winter Palace, or this procession, was brutally attacked. They were not showing any signs of attack, right? But here, the police and the Cossacks. Now who are Cossacks? Cossacks are nothing but people who are Orthodox Christians. And of course, they are mainly, they are like police, but for the Orthodox Christians. Like, they belong in that order. So the police and the Cossacks attacked them, and unnecessarily over 100 workers who had no indication of violence towards the other group were killed, along with 300 injured. And this incident in 1905 is called as the Bloody Sunday, which was considered to be a dark day. Now, why is the Bloody Sunday a very important thing for us to know? Because this is what instigated, right? This is what pushed it over the edge for a need to figure out that our monarch is not doing anything for us, right? So this here is very, very important. Yes? Are we clear? I know you're all Blackpink fans, but I want to know if you are all clear. Yes? Okay. Okay, thank you, Mushraf. Thank you for that. Right, I'll tell you about the Jadidist as well. Don't worry. Ma'am, screen is blurred. For those of you for whom screen is blurred, please refresh your page, okay? Yes. Now, of course, as you know, the Bloody Sunday happened in which year? 1905, right? And the reaction, so once this took place, it was chaos after that. Strikes erupted everywhere. The liberals, the Democrats, the revolutionists, they all decided that, you know what, this is not happening anymore. We need a constitution. We need a parliament. We need a governing body who is going to be looking after, who's going to be consulting, who's going to be advising the Tsar, right? And this idea that was put forth by the liberals and socialists was supported by nationalists and Jadidists. Now, who are Jadidists? These are Islamic revolutionaries, okay? So they are Islamic revolutionaries. So that's about the Jadidists who were there. Now, post that, students were boycotting universities. They were not going there. Doctors, lawyers. See, your working force, not just your laborers, but doctors, lawyers, engineers also started participating in these strikes. And of course, everybody decided that you cannot have an absolute monarch. We need somebody to take care of us, right? Why is Bloody Sunday a massacre? Yes, because over 100 people were killed and 300 were injured, right? So it is a massacre. Yes? Okay, my BTS fans also, focus in class. Yes? Okay. Are we clear so far with this? This is very important. The 1905 Bloody Sunday that is there. You will get this. They'll ask you what is the significance of the Bloody Sunday. So we must be able to answer this question. Right? Give me a quick thumbs up in the chat. It is, Vaishnavi, it is. Like I said, because over 100 people were killed, right? And over 300 were injured. I was going to say damaged. Ma'am, I want if it comes in NCRT, then we'll have to do, no? Who is this telling me? Diamond Creations. Okay. Yes, the Tsar is still here. He has not gone anywhere yet. He is still here. What is Winter Palace? Winter Palace is the place where the Tsar resides, right? That's his place. Now what happened is all this protest, revolution and everything, no? Here we see that now the Tsar decided that, okay, I have to do something about it. But see, again we're calling it as concessions. He's not really looking out for the people. He said, okay, since y'all are all doing this, here are some things which I can do from my end, right? So what did he do? He decided to, a provision was made to create a constituent assembly or the Duma. Important. What is the Duma? It is a constituent assembly which was created by the Tsar. Wherein if you see here that in the first Duma we saw that all political activities were restricted, and in the first Duma which had the mainly it had the liberals, the Democrats, the Socialists, they were dismissed in 75 days. While the second Duma that was there was again elected within 3 months, okay? And that also didn't last for too long. And towards the end, the third Duma that was there had only people who were loyal to the Tsar. And of course, the Tsar changed all the voting rights. So pretty much it's like he's having a Duma for the sake of having it. And along with this, he told that, listen, factory committees, trade unions are illegal as of 1905, right? So post the protest, he decided that I cannot be having these worker parties coming together on worker associations. So he decided that this is going to be illegal, right? And of course, mainly the revolutionaries and the liberals were kept out of the Duma's functioning. So very quick question for all of you. The protest following the Bloody Sunday led to the following changes in Russian politics. Which among this is the correct answer? Quickly in the chat. Yes. Who wants to protest in the chat? Tell me. Why do you all want to protest? You all only told me in the beginning, ma'am, this chapter is so tough, ma'am, oh no, I'm not able to understand. Now I'm breaking it down, making it so simple and easy for you, and you guys are all lost in BTS. Yes? Ma'am, can we get this class under video? No, you will not find it under video, you will find it under the live tab. So once the session is done, you will be able to find it under the live tab. Okay, a lot of you are saying B. We're saying the protest following Bloody Sunday did not lead. See, following the Bloody Sunday, there is still abdication of Tsar is your February revolution, right? It is not after Bloody Sunday. After Bloody Sunday resulted in formation of a constituent assembly or a Duma. See, I need you all to pay attention because you have all gotten lost, okay? Answer is option A. Is it more power to trade unions? It is not trade unions because he said that this is illegal. Liberals coming to power. No, in Duma he did not want liberals or the Democrats. He mainly had loyalists, right? Yes. No problem guys. Are we clear so far or have we gotten distracted in class? Yes? Give me a quick check on the Josh. How's the Josh check? Are we clear? Are we excited to know what's going to happen after this? What is this February Revolution? What is the October Revolution? What is going to happen in Civil War? And then after that, we still have to learn about Stalinism, no? Yes, very quickly, Josh check, need to have concentration in class. Yes? That is great that the Anthe exam was easy for all of you. So now, of course, here's a quick question again. Imagine if you are a student who is studying in Russia during the time of Bloody Sunday. What do you think is one of the reasons why so many protests happened and how everybody came together for this protest? What do you think? Can you tell me? No problem. Those of you who are there in class, what do you think is going to happen? Why is this happening, first and foremost? Or why do you think the protest received so much of support? No sufficient facilities, yes. Explain again, ma'am. I will explain. Don't worry. All right, everyone. How many of you are like, ma'am, answer nahi pata iska? Low wages, long working hours due to financial reports. Yes. So nice. Why? Okay. Workers were suffering. Yes. So mainly these are the observations. Okay, you need to write this down. Oppressive nature of Tsarist Russia forced the workers to form unions to protect against exploitation. Oppressive wealthy classes. Right? Yes. Sorry about that, guys. Right. What happened? It's buffering. Okay, I think it was buffering in between, but now I hope it is clear. Okay. So take a screenshot of this, or I will send it to you on Telegram, because you can get these case-based, observation-based questions also. So now we are going to move on. So this is in 1905, but you know in 1914, very quickly, First World War came, no? And of course, First World War was fought between who both? Tell me in the chat very quickly. World War I was fought between two powers, no? Who are the two powers? I told you this when I was teaching you Nazism. Who are the powers? Yes, no problem. When will class end? I will end it. I told you 1 more hour, but I'm taking it slow because this chapter needs to be taught a little slowly. I don't want to rush it, okay? Yes, Central Power and Allied Power. Very good. So Central Power and Allied Power was involved in World War I. Now can you tell me who was there in Central Power and who was there in Allied Power? I've taught you this also. Allied and Axis Power was in World War II, okay? Don't get confused with that. Yes. Very good. Germany. Yes. Wonderful. Central powers, I can see. D, can you tell me your name? Germany, Austria, Ottoman Empire, they were the central powers. Britain, France and Russia, along with Italy, Romania, later on the United States. Yes, they were the Allied powers, right? So in this case, if you see, Russia was part of World War I. It's okay, Nikita, you can come back later and watch it, right? So, no, under Hitler was during World War II. Don't get confused, okay? Now, World War I, when it happened, the Tsar, of course, went for it and he decided that they will, participate in World War I. But what happened was, initially, when the Tsar decided to do this, the Russians had supported them. Supported him. He's like, okay, maybe, yes, we should go for war. But what happened was, later on, the decisions that were made were under the Tsar entirely. He refused to take any consultation from the Duma. So what happened was, he was making his own decisions, whether it was for the welfare or no, he was not really thinking much, and this resulted in growing unpopularity. Consequence number 1, right? Now, consequence number 2, anti-German sentiments. Because it was fought against Germany, many people were having a lot of anti-German sentiments. For example, if you look at Tsarina Alexandra, right, who was the Tsar's wife, if you see that there was a lot of hatred towards her as well, a lot of negativity that flew there, and as a result, even St. Petersburg, which is a very German name, they renamed it as Petrograd, right? And of course, you know that she was seen as an outsider due to her German roots and her association with poor advisors like Rasputin, yes? So this is something that you need to know, that this World War I triggered it. But what were these decisions, right? This is point number 1 and this is point number 2. But the main thing here is that Tsar's decisions were also with respect to the army. See, I tell you that whenever there is war, right? The war's immediate consequence, when there is war, armies are sent out, which means that all the food and everything now will be redirected to the army, right? So what happened was, there were armies which were fighting on the Eastern Front as well as the Western Front. Now the Western Front, they were fighting alongside France, and of course they were fighting in the trenches, and it was completely fine for them, like in the sense that they were able to fight, right? But on the other hand, armies in the East who were fighting, they suffered huge losses. So it's not that if a power has won the war doesn't mean that every fight is won, right? There are times when they lose, and the losses are very high during a war. So by 1970, there were over 3 million casualties, right? That's not a small number, right? It is a huge number. And after a point, after Russia's defeat, right, they were shocking and devastating. So basically, in places where they lost, right, the Russian forces were asked to retreat. And on their way back, they destroyed crops and buildings. And if you see, they did this because they did not want any supplies to be left for enemy forces. So if anybody were to make their way to Russia, then they were like, they'll not be able to survive, right? And this situation, The fact that the armies had undergone so much and caused so many losses discredited the government and the Tsar. The government created by the Tsar, I would say. Soldiers were like, we don't want to be part of this. We don't want to be a part where we have to face such atrocities, right? And at the end of it, almost 7 million losses were there. 7 million people were affected, right? Now, post-war, right? What was the impact of war in Russia? Now, war is over, but it had a deep impact because now the industries in Russia were affected, right? So now we are moving slowly towards how the Tsar Nicholas's government and him were not able to deal and why there was an abdication. That is what we are learning now. So the industries were hit. And if the industries were hit, obviously causing unemployment, people don't have work. If people don't have work, they don't have money. If there is no money, no food. If you cannot have food and basic needs, how will you survive? It's a chain reaction. So very few industries only were able to survive. And the lack of supply. So what happened was Germany had cut off the supply through the Baltic Sea. Right? So it had cut off supplies and it said, I'm not giving you anything. You will not be able to export, import. And as a result, industrial equipment started falling apart. Right? Yes. Ma'am, अभी हिंदी में बताओ. वर्ल्ड वॉर 1 में रशिया का बहुत बड़ा हाथ था और रशियन आर्मीज ईस्टर्न साइड और वेस्टर्न साइड पे वो फाइट कर रहे थे. वेस्टर्न साइड और ईस्टर्न साइड पे दोनों का डिफरेंट एक्सपीरियंस था. ईस्टर्न साइड पे ज्यादा लोग बहुत सारे वॉर्स और बहुत सारे बैटल्स को लॉस्ट कर रहे थे. दे लॉस्ट दोस वॉर्स. और वेस्टर्न फ्रंट पे वो ट्रेंचेस पे फाइट कर रहे थे एंड इट वाज अ रिलेटिवली स्मूदर एक्सपीरियंस फॉर देम, राइट, कंपेयर टू द ईस्टर्न. End May by 1917, over 3 million people were affected. Casualties means people who were affected by the war. अभी जब रशियन फोर्सेस वापस घर आ रहे थे, ऑन द वे जो भी क्रॉप्स और बिल्डिंग्स थे उन सबको वो डिस्ट्रॉय कर दिया ताकि अगर कोई भी एनिमी रशिया के साइड पे आने के लिए कोशिश कर रहा है उनको सरवाइव करने के लिए कुछ भी बाकी नहीं है. तो ये सारा एक्सपीरियंस बहुत ट्रॉमेटिक था सोल्जर्स के लिए. उनको ऐसा लड़ाई नहीं करनी थी, राइट? इसीलिए वो जा और उनके गवर्नमेंट को डिस्क्रेडिट कर दिया कि नहीं, हम उनको फॉलो नहीं करेंगे, अभी हम उन पर बिलीव नहीं करेंगे. एंड बिकॉज जर्मनी भी, ये वॉर जर्मनी के साथ था ना, वर्ल्ड वॉर 1, जर्मनी ने बाल्टिक सी रूट, राइट, तो यहाँ पे अगर रशिया है और बाल्टिक सी से उनका कुछ इंडस्ट्रियल सप्लाई आ रहा था, जर्मनी ने उसको कट ऑफ कर दिया और इसके बिकॉज ऑफ दिस उनका इंडस्ट्रीज अफेक्ट हो गए. अगर इंडस्ट्री अफेक्ट हो गया तो लोगों का काम चला गया तो पैसा नहीं आ रहा है, अभी पैसा नहीं है तो खाना कहाँ से मिलेगा उनको, तो बहुत सारे प्रॉब्लम्स आ रहे थे. इसीलिए ज्यादा डिस्प्रूवल वॉर में आ रहा था. ठीक है, बाल्टिक सी मैप में बता दिए मैम, वेयर इज इट? Is it there? Baltic Sea is here. See? Baltic Sea is here, right? And for them to come, no, you will tell ma'am, we'll go from here, but actually it needs to go this way. So they had blocked it. Germany had blocked it. Okay? Yes. So now growing disapproval is there. So now what happened? Industries are down. Railway lines started breaking down. All the people were called to war now. So apart from your soldiers, people were losing their life, which means able-bodied men and the craftsmen, all the men were called to war, small workshops closed, supply of wheat and grain now were sent to feed the forces, there was shortage of bread and flour in the cities, riots started breaking out around 1960. Now in 1917, when the war was coming to a close, right, the city of Petrograd was divided into two, right? So here it was divided. So of course it says St. Petersburg right now, but it was divided into two parts, okay? So what do you see here? So there is, if this is the city, there was river Neva, right? Which was flowing through it, right? And it divided the city into the western and eastern front. Now, or you can say right and left. Now the left side of the river bank had all the rich people, the wealthier section, the winter palace, all of it was here, okay? While on the right side, on the other side were all the poor section of people. And mainly of course the richer section included elite homes, the Duma, the palace, everything. Poorer section were your laborers, your workers, and everybody else. Now, one fine day during the winters, right, especially, so this was the winter before February, okay, now we're moving into February Revolution. So the winter before February, we saw that the winters was very rough. It was a harsh winter. Along with that, war is happening, food shortage, no more food for the people, and of course, long bread queues. So just to get bread, there were long queues outside Petrograd, right? And again, there were a lot of efforts which were made to avoid the dissolution of the Duma as planned, right? So politically also, it's very unstable, which is why from Feb, they decided that they are not going to have any more, right? So on February 2nd or 22nd, remember this is very, very important. So on Feb 22nd, owners shut down a factory on the east of Petrograd, which caused a lot of worry amongst workers, right? Now what happened was on 22nd, this happened. The next day, the strike was called in 20 factories, and women participated and led the whole strike. This is what is marked as the International Women's Day. So now why is the February Revolution happening? Due to the consequences of World War I, right? And how the Tsar was not properly, taking care of it, right? Now, I will give you 2 minutes break after February Revolution, okay? I will give you 2 minutes break. Then after that, they crossed the sea. So on 23rd, they crossed the other side. They went outside the Duma. They went outside Winter Palace. They were protesting. So there was no political leaders in this whole protest, okay? In this strike, there was no political leaders. It was entirely workers. And they initially organized these campaigns, right? But later on, what happened was these protesters moved into the elite side. So they crossed the river. They went into the elite side of the Petrograd city, which was the Nevsky Prospect, which was the capital center. Now, around this time, what happened? The government called a curfew and they all had to go back. But the next day, again, they came back with full vigor. And now, again, politicians protested against this. So basically, around this time, when they started protesting, to show people that action was taken, the government suspended the Duma. They said, okay, we will get rid of this constituent assembly and we will get one more, okay? And what happened was on 27th of February, the police headquarters was attacked by protesters. And slogans were raised for better wages, for working hours and democracy. Now, for all of this, the Tsar sent in the cavalry. Okay, cavalry are nothing but a group wherein they were sent to attack the protesters. But surprisingly, they refused to do it. They said, no, we will not. And for people who voiced out, we saw that an officer who voiced out was actually shot in the barracks because he said that he will not do that. And like this, there was a lot of internal conflict now. See, everything has bottled down, everybody's fighting against each other, there's a lot of conflict, and 3 regiments were mutinated, which means that they were killed off. They were brutally, their lives were ended just because they joined the protesters. And as a result, all these protests resulted in the formation of a united Soviet. What is a Soviet? It is nothing but a council, which is called as a Petrograd Soviet. Now, all of these things, all the events in February from 22nd to 27th led to the abdication of the Tsar. As a result of the February Revolution, all of these things, right, that happened in that few days was called the February Revolution. And as a result, he abdicated or he resigned from his post upon the advisors when? On the 2nd of March, right? In 1917, Tsar Nicholas was abdicated. And as a result, a temporary provisional government was set up. Yes? Yes, okay. Are we clear? Are we clear? Yes, I know it's a little different, like calendar-wise, because they follow a different calendar, right? Yes, there's a difference in the calendar, but in theirs we call it as February Revolution. Yes, ma'am. See, now how many of you feel like this chapter is actually not that tough? If you know what is happening, it's become very simple, no? हिंदी में समझाओ, ठीक है, मैं क्विकली हिंदी में बताती हूँ, बाकी सब 2 मिनट का ब्रेक ले लीजिए, पानी पीजिए, अगर लंच करना है तो आप लंच लेके आ जाइए, ठीक है? Yes. Okay. This chapter is boring. It's okay, I mean, but how many of you found it interesting? Learn it as a story. Right. Okay, very good. So now of course, ड्यू टू वर्ल्ड वॉर वन बहुत सारे इम्पैक्ट हो गए रशियन एम्पायर में. नाउ इस समय क्या हो रहा था कि देयर वाज ब्लॉकेज. सो अभी जर्मनी वो बाल्टिक सी रूट को ब्लॉक कर दिया. उसके साथ साथ में रेलवे लाइंस डिसरप्ट होने लगे. देयर वाज आल्सो हार्श विंटर्स दैट वर देयर, राइट. सो व्हाट हैपेंड इज, लेट मी जस्ट गो बैक टू दैट पार्ट. हाँ, सो अभी फूड शॉर्टेजेस आने लगे. इसके साथ साथ हार्श विंटर्स भी थे, वॉर भी थे, बहुत सारे कठिनाइयां थी उस समय के लिए. और क्या हो रहा था कि बहुत सारे इंडस्ट्रीज क्लोज हो रहे थे. इसीलिए फरवरी में 22 को एक ओनर ने फैक्ट्री बंद कर दिया. ये तो एक टिपिंग पॉइंट था सबके लिए. वेरी नेक्स्ट डे उन्होंने 50 फैक्ट्रीज के वर्कर्स को गैदर करके उन्होंने एक स्ट्राइक कॉल कर दिया और सारे विमेन, सारे लेडीज उनमें पार्टिसिपेट कर दिए. इसीलिए ये दिन अभी हम इंटरनेशनल विमेन्स डे की तरह सेलिब्रेट करते हैं. और फरवरी में ये प्रोटेस्ट करने के बाद इनिशियली सिर्फ वर्कर्स ने प्रोटेस्ट कर दिया और पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज इन्वॉल्व भी नहीं थे. और उन्होंने क्या कर दिया, वो रिवर क्रॉस करके, रिवर नेवा क्रॉस करके दूसरे तरफ चले गए और वो डूमा के सामने प्रोटेस्ट करने लगे. गवर्नमेंट ने कर्फ्यू का कॉल कर दिया और इन सबको वापस घर भेज दिया. नेक्स्ट डे अगेन उन्होंने सब वापस यहाँ पे आके दे स्टार्टेड प्रोटेस्टिंग. एंड 27 को उन्होंने पुलिस हेडक्वार्टर्स को अटैक कर दिया. उनके पास स्लोगन्स थे जहां पे ब्रेड, फूड के लिए, बेसिक वेजेस फॉर डेमोक्रेसी एंड वर्किंग आवर्स के लिए उन्होंने स्लोगन्स का दे वर चांटिंग. नाउ ऑफ कोर्स ज़ार ने क्या किया, उन्होंने अपना कैवलरी को भेजा और बोला कि उन प्रोटेस्टर्स को आइदर गेट रिड ऑफ देम. नाउ कैवलरी में भी देयर वर पीपल जिनको अच्छा नहीं लगा कि ज़ार ने ऐसा ऑर्डर कर दिया. इसीलिए दे रिफ्यूज, उन्होंने मना कर दिया कि हम एक्शन नहीं लेंगे. और उन कैवलरी में भी अभी एक ऑफिसर को उन्होंने मारा और बाकी 3 ग्रुप्स और यूनिट्स में आपस में वो लड़ाई करने लगे. एंड में क्या हो गया, एंड में उन्होंने बोला कि ज़ार को कि अभी बस आप रिजाइन कर लो एंड आई थिंक दिस इज द बेस्ट फॉर यू. इसीलिए मार्च में उन्होंने एब्डिकेट कर दिया. और बिकॉज ये सारे एक्टिविटीज लेड टू द एब्डिकेशन ऑफ ज़ार, इसको हम फेब्रुअरी रेवोल्यूशन बोलते हैं. यस, ओके. 25th of February, the third Duma was dissolved. Sorry, the Duma was dissolved. 25th of Feb, third Duma that was residing, no, all of who were loyalists of Tsar, they were dissolved. Sorry. Yes. Let's take a quick break and let's get started. Okay, all right, everybody, take a quick 2-minute break and then we'll get started, okay? Okay, I can see that a lot of you are new here. My name is Aishwarya. So we'll start at 2 p.m. 1 more minute. Half yearly is coming up on 15th. Oh, all the best for that. Nazism and Rise of Hitler, I have already covered. It's there in the channel, okay? You can check it out in the channel. I've already finished that chapter. Yes, Mukesh, I think I have missed your question. So can you just send it to me once again? Third chapter is done on history. Yes, PDF मिलेगा. Please join our Telegram channel. Okay, you will be able to find the PDF. CID. CID. You tell me, Mukesh, what is the full form? I don't know. I'll check. If it is CID, the movie, I mean the TV series, is that what you are asking? I don't know why I'm thinking of that right now. Probably I'm just very tired. Okay. Chapter 3 हो गया. Channel पे है already. I will put it in the description. I mean, I'll put it as a comment also. Yes? Crime Investigation Branch. Department, sorry. How to write answers in SST? I'll be giving you. See, when SST, I'll give you some basic tips now. First and foremost, make it point-wise. And write as per the marks, okay? So, if it is a 4 marker, you need to have 4 to 5 points. Don't write extra. 2 marks, 2 to 3 points are more than enough. But in SST, the main thing comes in understanding what the question is asking you. So don't write extra points, because at the end of the day, if the crux of what is being asked is not there, then it will be difficult. And always write it in points, right? How we show it in the PPT, write it in points, okay? Okay. Utkarsh, what are you not able to understand? Which part of it are you not able to understand? Please tell me. Yes, we will be doing it. Don't worry. Okay, so we're going to get started with the last part. Now we have two very major things to look at. That is the October Revolution and the Civil War. So what I'm going to do is I need maybe 40 minutes of your time. I'll not lie, right? It will take that much amount of time to cover. But I want to make sure that you are finding the chapter easy. That's one of the reasons why we moved this session to a weekend, so that you have more amount of time to pay attention and listen to it, okay? Yes, all right. Yes, I will be taking a short revision very soon. Don't worry about it, okay? So let's get started with the next part. So here's a quick question for all of you and then we'll move. Russian forces won territories and destroyed enemy lines at the Eastern Front at the start of World War I. Is it true or false? In the chat, quickly let me know. Is this statement true or false? Yes, don't worry. All the chapters will be coming in. All of you, please make sure that you just stay focused. कुछ हिंदी में भी बोला कर दिया करो. मैंने प्रीवियस पार्ट तो हिंदी में भी बोला था ना, बट मेरा हिंदी उतना फ्लुएंट नहीं है, इसीलिए मैं इंग्लिश में पढ़ाती हूँ. Very good. It's false, because we know that Russian forces in the eastern line suffered terrible losses, right? Which is why this statement right here is false. What was the impact of World War on the industries in Russia? Equipment broke down, lack of supplies of raw materials, shortage of manpower, or is it all of the above? What is the correct answer here? In the chat very quickly. Yes, everyone, very good. Yes, the correct answer here is option D, all of the above. So now, of course, we know that post-World War I resulted. So February Revolution, what was the end goal or what was the consequence? The abdication of Tsar Nicholas II. Now, in the absence of a monarch or a governing body, they set up a provisional government. Now, this provisional government was mainly including the industrialists, lawyers, landowners, army officers, socialists, and liberals. Okay? And if you see, what their aim or their goal was to give freedom of speech to the people, equality before law, right of union to strike was, the right of union to strike was removed, because of course, if the union does not believe in something, they must be having the freedom to protest and voice their opinions out. And they decided to continue, but despite all of this, they still decided to continue and take part in World War I. Which further caused shortage of food, right? So far, if you see, right, एक जार के abdication के बाद, right? So जार के abdication कब हुआ था? 1917 में, but it is in March, right? Now till November, this World War will go on, right? November 1918, right? So अभी क्या हो रहा है? प्रोविजनल गवर्नमेंट आ गया जहां पे इंडस्ट्रियलिस्ट, लॉयर्स, आर्मी ऑफिसर्स सब हैं. उन्होंने बोला कि हम आपको फ्रीडम ऑफ स्पीच देंगे, इक्वालिटी बिफोर लॉ देंगे, आपको अगर कुछ पसंद नहीं आया तो स्ट्राइक कर सकते हैं, रिस्ट्रिक्शंस ऑन एसोसिएशन नहीं है अभी. बट लेकिन उनका एक बड़ा प्रॉब्लम क्या था कि उन्होंने वर्ल्ड वॉर 1 में पार्टिसिपेट करना फर्दर कर दिया और दे डिसाइडेड टू कंटिन्यू टेकिंग पार्ट इन वर्ल्ड वॉर 1. इससे क्या हो गया, शॉर्टेजेस ऑफ फूड आया था और राइट्स आ रहे थे. नाउ जब ये फेब्रुअरी रेवोल्यूशन हो गया और प्रोविजनल गवर्नमेंट आ गया, उसके बाद देयर वाज आवर व्लादिमीर लेनिन Bolshevik group, and we learned no, he was there and then we forgot about him suddenly and then now we're back. So Vladimir Lenin actually in this gap went on exile. So he was exiled, okay, he was exiled twice actually, and he returned to Russia in April 1917, just 1 month after the Tsar's abdication, and he demanded 3 things which were called as the April theses. So if they ask you in your exam, they can ask you for 1 mark or 2 marks. What were Lenin's theses or April theses? First, end war immediately. Don't keep furthering it. Transfer lands to peasants, okay? And nationalize banks. So if you see here, earlier Bolshevik group and their ideologies has now changed radically. So Vladimir Lenin's thoughts and everything had changed considerably, which is why he even renamed the Bolshevik party to the Communist Party to indicate that there are going to be new aims which are going to be incorporated into building a communist society, right? Yes. All right, you can take a screenshot, no problem. Very, very important, and I'll be sending you this PDF on Telegram, so you have nothing to worry about, okay? Yes, all right. Okay. आपने डाउट नहीं पूछा मेरे से उत्कर्ष, so please let me know, right? So we know that this is what Lenin did. He renamed Bolshevik party to Communist party, and of course after this his aim was to have some radical changes that aims in building a new communist society. And of course in June 1917 he set up all of Russia Congress Union Soviets, the first all Russian Congress of Soviets, right, which composed of representatives from about 500 local Soviets. So from different parts he convened them together and he brought them into a single Congress of Soviets, right? Yes. Okay. All right. Everybody focus in class. So now of course rise of Lenin, and we know that over time the Bolshevik influence grew. So what's happening? Lenin has come back and he's gathering all of these socialists together, and this scared the provisional government, okay? So now they are like, okay, now slowly there is this party, this Bolshevik party, which is now growing, and they seem like a potential, competitor to me, which is why eventually they decided to take some stern measures against them. So they prevented workers from running the factories, they arrested their leaders. So mainly now what's happening is internally, right? Internally now they are struggling, okay? And here if you see, they started attacking, or I would say they started affecting the Bolshevik government, sorry. So they prevented the workers from running, arrested their leaders, did all of this. And Lenin being who he is, he's a born revolutionary, right? So he decided that now it's high time that we fight against the provisional government, which is where the October Revolution takes place, okay? Yes. Don't worry about screenshot. मैं PDF definitely आपको भेजूंगी, आपको ये सब notes मिलेगा, ठीक है? Yes. Everybody focus in class. Ryan, I need you to focus, okay? All right. So very quickly, are we clear with this so far? Yes? All right. So what is happening during the October Revolution? This is going to be super important part. I want all of your focus here. See, I know some conversations are happening in the chat, but right now I need you to focus on what I'm going to be doing. Now in October Revolution, this took place around September 9. So in September 1917, if you see, Lenin brought in supporters from Soviets and the factories, and he called everybody and he said, hey, listen, provisional government is not doing anything for us. Let's, to voice our opinions against them and let's overthrow the government. Okay, they decided that let's just overthrow it. Now in October 16th, right, dates again are very important. Lenin persuaded the Petrograd Soviet. Now Petrograd Soviet, as we know, was formed, which included all the Soviets, right, the socialists who were there. He told all of them to come together. He called the Bolshevik party and he said that, listen, it's time for the socialists to seize power. We need to come to power. Which is why he set up a military committee. So a military revolutionary committee was set up under Trotsky and Trotsky was appointed as their leader. Now the plan was for the military committee to attack, right, or to take over and help in bringing the Bolshevik party to power. Now what happened was, at that time, the prime minister who was there, he was feeling something suspicious is happening. Which is why from the provisional government also, military troops who were loyal, right, to the provisional government, they were sent out. Then what did they do? So basically it's like an internal fight. Hey, you did this. Hey, no, I think you're going to do something. So let me come and do this. It's kind of like that. So what happened? The government, so they went and they took something from the Bolshevik people. So here these people are going, trying to attack them. From there they are going and they're like, come, we will take, 2 buildings that were seized by them, which were owned to the Bolshevik groups, right? And they took over the telegraph offices and the telephone, and of course they protected the winter offices, or mainly the government offices that were there. Now on the other hand, the military revolutionary, right? So just think of it as a fight. You have the provisional government and you have the Bolshevik party, right? Your Bolshevik party has made the Military Revolutionary Committee. Yes, MRC. These guys have what? They have the military troops. Now what did these people do? They seized 2 offices and they seized the telephone, right? And here if you see, they also got hold of the telegraph services that are there, right? So they cut all connectivity. On this side, they sneakily went in and they took over. So they took over the government offices, and apart from that, they also started attacking cruise ships. So there was a cruise ship called as Aurora, which was attacked, and all the other ships or all the other naval bases came together. And at the end of the day, what happened? End of the day, the October Revolution took place and the provisional government was overthrown. So these are the events of October Revolution, right? And that's how the Bolshevik party or Lenin came into power. Are we clear? Are we clear to this part? Everyone? Notes maker, please focus in class. Everybody, I'm requesting all of you to be a little more serious right now, okay? Alright, quick question for everybody. This is crystal clear, then I'm very happy. Lenin's demands at the end of February Revolution came to be known as what? April Thesis, Socialist Manifesto, Lenin's Document, or Das Kapital? What is the answer to this? Everybody in the chat, very quickly. Thank you, Kalki. Thank you so much. April Thesis. Very good. The correct answer is option A. Now, in the meanwhile, now that we've had a look at it, and of course, for those of you who are saying ki ma'am, aap Hindi mein padhao, right? So now, of course, for all of you out there and for others who are listening to me, right? You're all curious kids, right? And curiosity is a superpower that you all have, which is why we are going to be telling you how to harness it. And Jeet Ma'am is going to be coming live for all of you. She's coming live on 10th of November. So please register for this webinar. I'm telling you, it's going to be helpful for all of you. Because for the kind of questions that you ask, right, you will definitely learn how to harness it. And trust me, maybe there are a lot of questions that you as well as your parents might have on this, which is why it's a parent club event and we need your parents to be a part of it. So please request them to be here. Yes, Utkarsh. Okay, alright. Today there is no mentee, right? So we don't have mentee today. See, Soviet that is there, or the Soviet Union that is there, no, it is nothing but a group basically. So a group of socialists, when they come together, they form the Soviet Union, right? So that is what we mean by it. Where did the chat go? Alright, today there is no mentee. Alright, no mentee today because this chapter is already very huge. Now, last few parts, okay, because after this, we just have civil war, which is the main thing that I want to discuss, and then the last part of the chapter is very easy. Stalinism is a very easy part. If you understand all of this, then you will know what Stalinism is, okay? Alright. So now, of course, post October Revolution, you know that the Bolsheviks that are there, they have come into power. Now, these Bolsheviks had some initial changes that they wanted to bring about in the Russian Empire, okay? Now, they decided that they were anti-private property. See, again, socialist ideals. They did not want private property. They wanted land to be declared as a social property. And all the peasants who were there, they took over the lands from the nobles. And all the banks and the industries were nationalized. So, it was brought under a national government. Now, the large houses. So, imagine if there's a very big house and only 3 people were living. Then what they did was they would add in more people to that house. So large houses were partitioned such for needs of smaller families that were there. And of course, there were use of aristocratic titles such as prince, baron, all of that was banned. Okay, no more titles are going to be used. And here, the most important thing, to establish that a change has been brought, they gave new uniforms to the army and the officials that gave rise to the Soviet hat that we know of, which is the Bunyan. It's pronounced as Badanovka hat. Sorry, sometimes with the pronunciation, Russians pronunciations, I struggle a little. So this is the characteristic USSR hat that is there. So now, of course, as we know, the Bolshevik party was renamed as the Communist Party, and thinking that all these changes are going to be there, and Bolshevik party being very confident, they participated in their first election. Okay, so they decided that, okay, now I'm in power. Lenin is there. We have overthrown the provisional government. People will be in our support only, no what to worry. They were very chill and they were very confident. Now the thing is, in the elections that happened in November, to their surprise, they did not gain majority. So the members of the Bolshevik party did not gain majority. Then who gained the majority? Revolutionary Party. Remember when we was talking about how some Russian nationalists, they wanted they wanted the peasants. They wanted them to be the ones who are running it, and they formed the Russian Socialist Revolutionary Party. They were the ones who won the majority seat. But then again, in January, when the elections took place again, they made sure that, in January, the assembly rejected the Bolshevik party's measures. So whoever was there and whatever they were suggesting, the assembly was like, no, we don't want to take it. Now Lenin was not happy. Lenin dismissed everybody. He said, no, I don't want this assembly. And then if you see, he saw that the all Russian Congress Soviets are more democratic than the assembly. Right? Yes. 2nd March, what is happening? Tsar is abdicated. Okay? So this is what happened when the Bolsheviks were on power. These were their initial changes. This is what happened. Even though they came to power, they did not win elections, or they were not elected into the assembly. And as a result, if you see, they rejected, and there were more majority in the Socialist Revolutionary Party. And as a result, if you see, people were dismissing their measures. And of course, because of this, Lenin dismissed the whole Constituent Assembly. Now, side by side, what happened was, when Lenin came into power, his April thesis was to end war. So that's what he did. He ended the war, and he ended it with peace with Germany. And he signed a treaty which is known as the Brest-Litovsk treaty. Okay? And this was signed with Germany. Now, one of the major problems with this treaty was the fact that a portion of the Russian Empire was now given to Germany. Okay? There was a portion of land which belonged to the Russian Empire, but now it has gone to Germany. So people were very unhappy about this. And with this, the Russia exited the war. They said no more war. Now, along with this, because of the fact that he kept dismissing his Constituent Assembly, there was a point after which in his elections, only the Bolsheviks were participating in this all Russian Congress of Soviets. Only Bolsheviks were there. And eventually the Russia that is there became a one-party country, right? Or a one-party system, where only one party state was there and only that was established. And everything was under the control of the party. The trade unions, the art and architecture, everything. Now Lenin is trying to control everything that is happening, right? So these are two very important things. Now, as a result, what happened was, we saw that Lenin also set up Cheka, right? Or they were secret police systems. And they were monitoring people who were speaking up against the Bolsheviks, or they were seeing if anybody was saying bad things about Lenin, and they would punish all of the critics, right? And all the young artists, political thinkers, they all were subdued. So you see, again, even though they think that they've got, like, it felt like a ray of hope when Lenin came into power, by the practices that was being followed, it did not feel that way. Which is why after this, there was a lot of resistance to Lenin's policies. And who resisted it? The non-Bolshevik socialists, and there were some liberals who were there, some people who were still committed to the Tsar was there, and all of them decided that, okay, it is time to fight against him, or we must say something, right? So a lot of other things happened in the meanwhile. Land redistribution caused soldiers to desert forces and they went back, so there was no army. Then you see that there was rising criticism, which resulted in the Civil War. So what is the Civil War? Civil War is when it is fought internally, right? You know, Civil War of Avengers, which was fought between Captain America and your Iron Man, and of course you know that within the Avengers itself a fight broke out, right? So that's pretty much what a civil war is, when it fights or when it breaks out within a group, which resulted in Civil War. Now I'm going to give you all a 2-minute break, because again I know that it's quite a bit of information dump that I've given you. So we'll take 2 more minutes and the last part is there, and then we will wind up, okay? Yes, all right everybody, just take 2 minutes of time. And I can see that in the chat, a lot of other conversations are happening. I'm reading it also. So everybody, please make sure that you are focusing in class, okay? I don't want to be the one telling that this person is the one distracting the class, right? I don't want that, no? Another 20 more minutes and we will wind up. Almost done. Civil War is the last part of the main thing. And then we have Stalinism and then we are done. This chapter is a very big chapter, no? It's a very huge chapter. Lot of things are there. So I need to break it down and teach you. Otherwise, it's very tough. मैम थोड़ा हिंदी प्लीज. हाँ मैं हिंदी में बताऊंगी, बट आपको पता है ना मेरा हिंदी उतना स्ट्रांग नहीं है. सभी क्लास में मैं बोलती हूँ यही बात. आप फिर से मेरे से हिंदी में ही हिंदी में बात करने के लिए बोलते हैं. Hi Nidhi, hello. Yes, we'll take 2 minutes and then we'll start, okay? Autocracy is a kind of rule where you have one ruler, right? One absolute ruler. That is autocracy. So the rule that we saw in Tsar Nicholas II was an autocratic rule. Hello Nila, hello. Everybody, I hope that you've been enjoying today's class. I know today's class is long. Lunchtime, history, nap also is there. So I know all of you all are feeling that. But I need you all to have the Jeet Ka Josh. I need you all to give me Josh. That's what drives me to take class, no? So I need you all to be a little more enthu in the chat, right? And very quickly, hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Show me your love. Yes? How sweet, Rameez. How sweet. Thank you, thank you, Nidhi. Yes. Ma'am, water kitna peena chahiye? Drink how much ever good amount of water. They say 2 liters and all. Drink 1 bottle of water a day. That's what normally I do. I have like 1 bottle and I make it a point that I drink good amount of water. How's the Josh, ma'am? You tell me how's the Josh. If you have the Josh, I have double, triple Josh. Okay? But you have to give me Josh in the chat. No? Sorry, in between if my pronunciation gets stuck, that's only because I may need some water in between. Other than that, like, please don't mind my pronunciation. Okay? Yes, very good. It is very high. Okay then. Very good. So now we know that it has led to civil war, right? Yes, thank you, thank you. Josh is high, then we'll get back. We'll wind this chapter up in the next 20 minutes. So our target is to wind this up by 2:40 so that you can take a good break before your maths class, right? Good amount of break. Yes. So now we are aware of what has led to civil war. Lenin's policies before this, after overthrowing provisional government, was not very ideal, right? Which is why the non-Bolshevik socialists and liberals, they started to protest, leading to the formation of two groups. So you had the Reds versus the Greens and the White. Now who are your Reds? Your Reds are your Bolsheviks, right? Who are your Greens? They are your non-Bolshevik socialists. Who are your Whites? They are your pro-Tsars, right? So they believed in the Tsar methods and they support them. The conservatives, basically. Yes? Civil war and evolution. Civil war is when it is happening internally, when there is a, good amount of, difference in opinions, which has ultimately led to clash, right? But this is happening internally, which is what we call as a civil war. Always remember Captain America versus Iron Man, which led to the movie that is Civil War. You remember, no, there was a difference of opinion between Captain America and Iron Man, and it got to a point when they clashed against each other. Now, on the other hand, a revolution is when many things, it happens over a period of time, and we see that many things contribute to bringing about a drastic change, right? Now, a revolution could be through wars, it could be through protests, right? But the main thing is that it's bringing about a large change, right? So that is the main thing. So now, of course, we see that the civil war that was there lasted mainly between 1918 and 1919. Sorry about that. Right? So the civil war lasted throughout and Russia experienced famine, looting and banditry. Poor Russians, I feel, no? Poor people, they are going through so much. Now, the Greens and the Whites that were there, that means the non-Bolshevik socialists and the pro-Tsars that were there, no? They were backed by French, Americans and Japanese troops. Now, can you tell me why this was happening? Why do you think that people from other countries are supporting the Greens and the Whites? Why do you think this is happening? Can you tell me in the chat? Why were the others backing them up? Yes, everyone in the chat, can you tell me? Chat has slept. Is that what happened? Chapter 3 I've already done, Baba. It's there in the channel. Sayani, it is there. You can search for the chapter name and put my name along with it. You will be able to find it. Okay, everybody. Any of you know or you're like, ma'am, pata nahi. Answer kya hai? Yes, all right. Can you repeat the question? Okay. Why did the French, the Americans and the Japanese fund the Greens and the Whites? So they funded them either through money or weapons. So what is the reason behind this? Can any of you tell me? All right, everyone. I am waiting for your answer. Otherwise, I will not be able to. Pura chapter nahi pada abhi to join hua. No problem. If you've not read the whole chapter, you can just rewatch this whole video, put it on 2x and you can watch it, okay? I don't know, ma'am. Okay, no problem. I'm very happy you told me you don't know. Yes. Now, why did other people start funding? Because see, in all these places, if you remember, we were discussing the ideas of capitalism, no? Much beginning in the chapter, we spoke about capitalism. Now, they were capitalist-based centers. And they did not want the ideas of socialism spreading. Okay? They were very happy with all the money and profit they were making. They did not want the idea of socialism spreading to their countries and they wanted to subdue it. Which is why when the Greens and the Whites revolted or they went against the Reds, these guys backed them with money and weapons. And the Bolsheviks were supported by workers, the Muslim jihadists, and the non-Russian nationalists who are there. So these guys did not have quite a bit. Now, from what it seems, it looks like the Greens and the Whites are about to win, right? But what happened was a section of the pro-Tsars who were there, they took some harsh steps. So they actually killed some of the peasants just to seize the land. And when they did this, for the people who they claim to fight or to support, they have attacked them. And as a result, most of the population in Russia decided that, okay, maybe greens and whites are not the people we need to support, but rather it's the Bolsheviks or the Reds. Which is why by 1920, former Russian Empire was now entirely controlled by the Bolshevik, and of course, as a result, in places like Khiva, right, a lot of the Bolsheviks were exerting their power on the people. Which is why, like in the parts of Central Asia, we saw that a lot of people decided that we don't want to be part of the Russian Empire. We want autonomy, or we want to run by ourselves. Which is why non-Russian nationalities were given autonomy, or they became independent states, and of course the USSR took place, and the formation of USSR, right? When did the formation take place? In December 1922. Yes? All right. Okay. So now, of course, now if you see, your Bolshevik party, who were there after provisional government, underwent civil war, and now they realize that, guys, we need to really, step up, no? So they decided that we need to focus on creating a socialist society. Something Marx was talking about way in the beginning, right? A socialist society. So, of course, the industries and the banks remained nationalized, and the land also was socialized, which means it was given to the public, and peasants were encouraged to collectively work on land. Now, they also introduced an idea of centralized planning. Now, what do I mean by centralized planning? It means that they will make targets. They'll be like, okay, this year we should be achieving this thing, right? So they started deciding on some targets, they started to prioritize their economy, and this was the role of the government. And to do centralized planning, they came up with the concept of a 5-year plan, right? So they came up with the concept of 5-year plan. Now the first 5-year plan was between 1927 and 1932, second one between 1933 and 1938. And during this time, they fixed the prices of things to promote industrial growth. Every commodity or everything that they were selling had a fixed price. There was no bargaining, there was no unnecessary inflation. And as a result of all of this, the Russian economy improved considerably. It did really well. Yes? Okay. Are we clear so far, everybody? We will wind up in the next 10 minutes. 10 minutes maximum I will take, and then we will do. Because today's class is very long, I do not have a mentee. We'll have a separate mentee class. Okay? Yes. Okay. So now what has happened? What was the economic boom that we saw due to the plan? We saw that between 1929 and 1933, production of oil increased, coal and steel production increased 100%. Factories grew, new factory cities emerged, all of this was happening. So basically there is rapid growth. But I also told you throughout today's class that if anything happens very fast, right, that is also not very good. Because rapid work or rapid construction of factories and all of this meant that more and more working conditions. We are going back to the same problem. We are circling back. It started with poor working conditions, then all this happened. Now I'm back to poor working conditions. We are going in circles, right? And not more than 550 stoppages of work was reported, right? I mean, more than 550 stoppages of work, which means that work was not progressing as much as they planned. But the Bolsheviks were not oblivious. At least earlier, what happened earlier was the Tsar and his, people, the noblemen, they were very oblivious to the working conditions. They didn't even do much about it. But now the Bolsheviks were not like that. So they were like, see, we will make small arrangements, like giving education to the poor people. For women who are working, they can, have a daycare center, right? Which were called as creches, right? And of course, they were providing living places to the workers as well, and they provided them with basic public health. But again, they did as much as they could. They had very limited resources, and change to a large extent was very tough, right? So this was all about the government's response. So what happened post-Civil War, how the treaty, the 5-year plan helped, and how, of course, it brought an increase in the economy, and what the government did to tackle the problems during then. Okay? Very quick question. Why did Britain and France support the Greens and the Whites against the Bolshevik army in Russia? To protect Russians, were opposed to Bolsheviks, they supported capitalist ideology, or they wanted to maintain world peace. What is the answer? Yes, okay. Very quickly, everyone, can you tell me the answer to this? What is the answer to this particular question? All right. Okay. Pooja, you can just check with the comment moderator. I've explained this point. No, we had Britain and France who supported Greens and Whites. They were providing funding. No, why did they fund these Greens and Whites and not the Bolshevik army? I have told you this point. And I remember I asked you this question also. Just think back to that part. Yes, very good. It is not B, it is C. They were not opposed to Bolsheviks. They supported capitalist ideology, which means they were against the idea of socialism, right? That is what they did not want. They were against socialism. So that is what you need to remember, okay? So now we have looked at Civil War. Now what happened? All this was happening. They were trying to figure out. And in early 1924, Vladimir Lenin died of a brain hemorrhage. After successfully revolutionizing the Bolsheviks, he suffered a brain hemorrhage and he passed away. And his successor was Joseph Stalin, who was the leader of the Soviet Union. And his method of rule, his policies, and what he did during his reign is what we call as Stalinism. They can ask you this for 1 mark. What is Stalinism? Okay? So this is important to understand. And he also implemented something known as collectivization, right? So what is collectivization? Now, of course, as you know, right, the economy was booming, but there were still struggles. Now, one such struggle that they played, what they had or what happened back then was, although the economy was planned, they were suffering from shortage of food grains. They did not have enough food, okay? Now, what happened was 2 things. I told you government fixed prices for commodities. They said that, okay, everything has to be sold. Now, when they fixed the prices were very low for selling. Which means, if I want 40 rupees of basmati rice, government is telling, no, you sell at maybe 20 rupees. So, for me, it's a very low selling price. As a, businessman, I'm not making much, right? And peasants, of course, were like, no, I will not sell. I want to sell at 40 rupees. But what happened was they were not able to figure out why this shortage of grain is happening. So then some people thought that, okay, these rich people who are there, the rich peasants, maybe they are hoarding it or they are collecting it and they're keeping it. Maybe that is happening. And as a result, right, because he thought that the rich people were hoarding it, he sent out party workers to forcefully collect from the rich peasants, right? So these rich peasants are called as kulaks. You need to remember this term because in your textbook also you'll have a question saying, write few sentences about kulaks. Who are kulaks? They are well-known farmers. They are the rich farmers and they were believed to be hoarding the food grains during the shortage of food grains. Now, they were warned against hoarding it. And what did they do? Whatever these kulaks owned, right? They took all the farms and they kept it under them. They took all the land away. And instead, what did they do? So they said, give me all your land. I will give you land and you can, cultivate or grow in these large lands. So that is what they did. But then later they realized that that is not the reason. The fact that they were hoarding was not really the reason. The fact was there was low production of grains due to smaller farms, right? That's why they made those large farms. And land could not be modernized. So they were not able to figure out how to utilize the land, right? Or how can we divide it? Yes? So which is why they started having these established state-controlled large farms. Now, that collecting, what he did, right, where he brought these large farms under him is what we call as collectivization. where in 1929 peasants were forced to work on collective farms that were called as kolkhoz, right? So all these farms, small farms put together made a large farm, and this is what they called as a kolkhoz, which is what comes under collectivization. And land and of course implements were transferred to ownership of collective farms, and farmers work together, so they work together, they share the profit, right? Yes. But even then, see, they thought they were doing a right thing for the people. But what happened was, despite this also, there were some struggles, okay? Because what happened was, the peasants did not want to work collectively. And as a result, there was a lot of backlash from the peasants, okay? So what did the peasants do? They attacked livestock, and as a result, the cattle numbers fell down. Peasants wanted to work on independent farms now. They're like, we don't want to work in those kolkhozs, right? We don't want to work as a collective thing. We want to work independently. Now there's a lot of backlash, and that's why Stalin gave in also, and he said, okay, you take. But when he gave independent farms, the independent farms that he gave, these farms were, very low quality farms, I would say. So the land was not of good quality, and they had to pay higher taxes also. So it was not like he was really doing them a favor, but he was just like, take it. If you are protesting so much, you take it. Now this, coupled with bad harvest, led to a lot of people dying due to starvation. Now this, of course, the whole idea of collectivization was, of course, met with a lot of criticism. They accused that, socialism that was there is not really working, and there was a lot of criticism to how Stalin was doing it. And of course, towards the end of World War II, when that happened, he ruled as a dictator. Towards the end, he became a dictator. So see, we started off from monarchy. There were attempts of a socialist society, right? And then, of course, we saw that it led into dictatorship. So this is the story of Russia and how the Russian Revolution took place, right? But now, after everything, ma'am, why? Why are we learning about this Russian Revolution? Because it had an impact, a global impact. Because these ideologies actually were fired, right? It was all triggered by the working class of people, right? And communist parties not just started forming in Russia, but it started forming in different parts of the world. And if you see here, the Bolsheviks formed an international union, conferences were held, and of course this influenced many non-Russians to take part. And of course, post this, the Communist Party fell, right? The USSR, that is there much later, late 1950s. The communism or the idea of socialism fell. It did not really sustain. But what was the learning from all of that is that the ideology, so in places like Britain and of course in places like India, the communists who were there started to rethink socialism. They started to figure out, okay, if we want to build a socialist society, how do we do it, right? So that was the whole point of this particular chapter. Yes? मैम आप इरिटेट नहीं होते चैट से, मैं हमेशा आपको बोलती हूँ आप क्लास में फोकस करो. मैं तब से आपसे बोल रही हूँ. अभी आपको अगर in case if you got distracted here and there, you come back and watch the video, right? Yes. So everybody, I think I kept my promise. I told you 240. It's 2:43, but with this we are done with this chapter. So how are you all feeling about this, ma'am? अभी तो ठीक ठाक है, easy है, right? How many of you are feeling that this is much better? I know today's class was long, almost 2 hours. I would have taken 2.5 hours. But main thing is for me to take this time to teach you these points, right? Because I'll tell you what, many concepts get confusing, but now you know, right? We now know impact of socialism. Then we know about how in 1905, the Bloody Sunday that was there, what was its impact and how it led to the February Revolution and how this led to the abdication of throne. Then, of course, the uprising of the Bolsheviks and that leading to the October Revolution, right? Which led to the overpowering and overthrowing of the provisional government. Then after that, this resulted in civil war between the Bolsheviks and the whites and the greens. And of course, in the end, how there was a rise of Stalinism. Are we clear? Yes. Too much info in this chapter, I know, but now I have broken down this information, right? We need to break it down and then learn it. And then, of course, it will get easy. Which is why here's a homework question for all of you, right? I want you to quickly give me I have the answer in the PDF, but I want you to write this answer for me, right? Question time. What were the main, okay, I will write the question. So, what were, I think it's there with me. I'll give you a textbook question only so that you can answer. Yes. All right. So this is your homework question, okay? So what were the main changes which were brought about by the Bolsheviks after the October Revolution, right? I need you to give this. This is going to be for 4 marks if you were to write this answer. How will you write it? In the comment section, okay? This is your homework question for the day. Of course, with this we come to the end of today's class. I will not take time. This is there for you as well in the PDF. It will be there to help you out. And with this we come to the end. Now, of course, everybody, do not forget to register for the English classes. For those of you who keep telling me, ma'am, your English is really good. If you also want to improve on your English, please make sure that you avail the BYJU'S spoken English classes. It's available especially for 9th grade, right? This is a paid program, but nonetheless, if you want to try it out, you can try it out. There are Cambridge certified teachers teaching you. And of course, you know that we've got you covered no matter what, right? So like this video, please share this with your friends and stay subscribed to our channel, right? Yes. So Simran, I think if you've not attended this part, what I would say is you rewind this video and watch the part and give me the answer. Yes? So did you all enjoy today's class? Sunday 2 hours and now socialism is in my pocket, right? Yes, thank you so much everybody for being such amazing students. I know that history is a little tough chapter to learn sometimes, but don't worry, okay? Like, we are here with you, Ankita ma'am and I are here, Tarana ma'am is here, we'll all help you out with social studies, okay? Yes, all right everyone, so I think with this we can wind up, right? Hoping to see you all very, very soon again. Bye everybody.